Today's guest is banned from every casino in Vegas.
I got banned from 95% of the casinos in the world. A lot of casinos that I'm on the blacklist for, I've yet to go to.
A problem child, he was selling drugs at 11 years old, spending time in and out of jail during his teen years, and by 20, he found himself homeless and an addict.
When you turn on the TV, all you see is like, don't do drugs. Gambling, if you turn on the TV, you see the opposite. You see the bright lights, the jackpots, the potential to win. They go, come to our casino and like explore your addiction.
But against all odds, he turned it around to become a legend in the gambling world, winning over $30 million through Baccarat and guiding countless celebrities to massive wins.
Drake followed me and hit me in the DMs. Little baby had me fly out to Vegas. And I'm not gonna say who, but government officials, politicians.
In this episode, we'll dive into his troubled youth, uncover his unique insights into the dark side of Vegas, and explore the strategy that crowned him the king of Baccarat. Welcome to the Jack Neel Podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Brother?
Bro, why is your voice so good? How do you do that?
Appreciate you, man. Yeah, I've been working on it all my life, you could say. I used to have a country accent because I'm from Kentucky originally, and it was like super strong, but then I got into like speech and debate stuff, social media, and the accent kind of fades away. You know what I'm saying?
That voice is incredible.
Appreciate you, brother. Well, Mikki, I think I want to start here with, would you say you're a lucky person?
I find that the harder you work, the luckier you get. I think luck is when timing meets preparation.
Tell me more.
I think you make your own luck. Like I think it seems like the luckiest people are the ones that work the hardest, you know? So I think there's like a direct correlation. I don't think luck is a real concept. I think it's like a fabrication of the disbelief of accountability. And I think that when timing meets preparation, it's like, let's say I'm working towards getting a movie deal, right? We're just talking about movies. So if I'm constantly working towards being an actor or whatever it may be, and I'm always working on that, when I meet somebody that can help me achieve that goal, it wasn't luck that they took a shot at me. It's that they saw my capabilities or my abilities and they go, hey, you should be in this movie.
That's really interesting. Yeah, I guess if you work every day, eventually you'll become lucky. I guess just from luck perspective, would you call yourself objectively lucky? Like, have you had any lucky moments that like you weren't working hard for? You're like, that's really lucky that happened to me, or no?
Sure. I think there's like times where it was a really close call and I have a series of always being on the right side of it. Sure. I've been in some sticky situations and I haven't died yet.
So how many casinos are you banned from?
I don't know how to actually quantify it because a lot of casinos that I'm on the blacklist for, I've yet to go to. So I can give like, usually what people say is like 95% of the casinos in the world. There's no real way to prove that until I go to 100% of the casinos in the world and find out how many kick me out.
Are you banned from like the casino in general, or is it just certain table games?
Every company treated it different. There's like, let's talk Vegas, right? Like super hyper focused. In Vegas, there is one casino in the city that I can do anything I want as far as gaming goes, other than extended limits, comps, and I can't stay there. Like I can't get a room. But as far I could walk in without calling ahead, I can just show up whenever I want, play any game I want, do whatever I want in those regards. Everybody else has a different set of rules. Some don't even want me on their sidewalks. Some love when I show up as long as I don't gamble. Like I'm barred from gaming, but they love having me in their nightclubs or at the restaurants because it's so much free marketing for them. So every casino, every company has treated me different.
When did you get banned for the first time?
Probably in 2019 or maybe early 2020. I got banned for the first time, and I think it was from Park MGM.
What'd you get banned for?
I caught them cheating. Yeah, I was with like a group of like pro poker players where they're playing Baccarat, and I placed a bet, and I remember that all their whole Baccarat room was different. Their high limit room is called Nomad. Whatever, it's called Nomad. And I'd been already playing there. Like I was familiar with them. And I showed up this particular time, and their tables were different. The felt was different. The monitors were different. Everything was different. And I played one hand, and I won. I played a second hand, and I lost. When I lost, they were digitally displaying the cards on the monitor. And I lost to a natural 9, which is fine. You lose some hands. No big deal. I go to look at the monitor to gauge what I want to do for the next hand, and it's displaying the cards that had just came out. And it said that I lost to a natural 9, 7 deuce. But I looked on the table and I lost to a natural 9, 5-4. So I said, everybody stop. And I said, why did I lose to a 5-4, but the monitor's saying it was a 7 deuce? And everybody said, I don't know. I said, bring an executive down. They brought an executive down and I said, I caught you cheating. Because if you're going to have your monitors fabricate any data it wants to tell me any story it wants, if I'm betting based on the information on the monitor, if it's going to make that up, it's going to make up anything else it wants. And that will always lead me to failure, assuming that I'm betting based on the monitor. And they said, you have 30 minutes to pack your bags and get out.
So that was the first time you accused them of cheating and got banned. And then was it pretty consistent after that? Or what was like the next time you got banned? Do you know the next reason?
I don't really remember the next one.
Has it ever been for like winning too much consistent?
Yeah.
That's most of it?
Yeah, for sure. It all stems from that, really. Like as a winning gambler, their idea is they want people to win. It's really good for business. It's a loss leader for somebody to come in and win, because then you're always going to remember the time you won. You're going to believe that you could win again. But in the long run, everyone always loses. So they want winners. The problem is when you keep winning. And then when I started, figuratively speaking, showing them my cards that I knew they were cheating, then they knew that I had found the way to reverse their edge.
Have you ever placed any bets on things like the Derby or like dog racing, that kind of stuff, or not too interesting to you?
For fun, I've probably placed a bet on everything you could bet on.
Yeah.
But I'm not like an advantage better on dogs, like I'm not like a winning better on the Derby.
So you made $1 million profit a week for a year straight.
Not exactly. It was less, because if I did that, then I would have won $52 million that year, and I didn't. It was less. It averaged out to be $1 million a week net profit for some extended period of time.
Like several months, yeah.
Yeah, but it was more like this. It was like I would show up 1 week, win $5 million, not come back for 5 weeks. Show up 5 weeks later, win $3 million, not come back for 3 weeks. Win $10 million, not come back for 2 months. So it was like that. But like for fun one time, I was just like doing my math, and I was like, oh, it looks like I won $1 million a week for whatever time it was that I had done the math.
Do you know anyone else with your type of track record?
There's a couple guys that won real big, but everyone else has done it differently. Like Phil Ivey won a bunch, and then he had to give it back through lawsuits, right? He was card sorting. Same with Kelly's son. Don Johnson won a ton. Archie, what's his last name? Carras? Whatever. He did the same thing. I think he turned something like, I don't know, $40 into $40 million or something. But then he ended up giving it back at the end. There's like a bunch of huge Asian players that'll come, and they're lifetime losers. But when they do win, and they're betting $1 million a hand, they could win $20 million in a weekend.
Yeah, the Asian players are really interesting. Have you been to any casinos in Asia?
I can't leave the country right now, so I have not been over there.
Have you heard the thing about, I think it's like the casinos will hire, I think it's called ghost babies? Like they have like really superstitious stuff where they will hire ghost babies to like sit under the table and like hire people to channel these spirits so people lose more. And then like the Chinese gamblers will bring in like candies to kind of throw to these babies to ward them off. Have you heard about this before?
I haven't, but it wouldn't
No.
surprise me.
Yeah.
The Asian gambling demographic is probably the highest demographic of like superstitious people.
Why do you think that is?
I could like make up an answer. I don't
Yeah,
really
yeah.
know. If I had to make up an answer, I would say I think a lot of Asian cultures have strayed the least from their like origins and like their old like cultural roots. And I think back in that time, most human beings couldn't explain a lot of things happening with logic and rationale because they didn't have the technologies or understanding. So a lot of them believed in gods and spirits and things like that. So probably the belief from some kind of baby ghosts or whatever stems from actually a misunderstanding or a misrepresentation of what it was in reality, and culturally still exists for them.
Are you a pretty superstitious person?
No.
No? Have you ever done anything superstitious at the casino?
Yeah, I've done a couple things. I don't like to gamble on full moons. I don't like full moons. We try not to split poles. Something, I don't know if this is a superstition, I just can't stand it. I don't like being bothered. When I wake up and I know that I'm going to gamble that morning, I don't want anything to cause me friction. I don't want to talk to anybody. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to stand still. I want to stay in motion. I wake up, walk right into the shower, brush my teeth, get dressed, keep it in motion, and get right to the table.
You said full moons. Why don't you gamble on full moons?
I don't know. I just don't like them.
What about them? Like,
I just, maybe that's my superstition. They just,
have Has it been unlucky for you before?
Always thought that they were like unlucky. And then my best friend who gambles with me, he's always been to, on my right hand side. We had like this big gambling play that we had to do. And I go, I can't do it. It's a full moon. And he's like, stop being a pussy, bro. It's just the moon. Like the cards aren't going to change. The cards aren't talking to the moon like, yo, are you full today? Because we're going to be different.
Yeah.
And I said, look, I'll play today. And if it doesn't go well, we're never gambling on a full moon again. And he goes, all right, fine. We ended up winning like a few $1,000,000. So I kind of like pushed past that. But to this day, I'm just not like a huge fan of full moons.
That's really interesting. I've never heard you say that. How do you turn $200 into 800,000?
Yeah, it was over 3 days, and I did leverage 3 casinos. So the short version is I did it in many increments. I had 2 black chips, which are $100 each. I was at Aria, I remember. And my same best friend, we ate at Catch, and we were staying in the Sky Suites. There's a shortcut if you go through. I think they might have changed the Aria now, but it used to be the high-limit blackjack room. You can cut through, and it's a shortcut to the elevators. We were walking in that direction, and there was actually in like Gen Pop, like the not high limit regular, there was for 1 second like a fully empty table, which is kind of unusual there. I just sat down. I bet $100. I think I had a split. I either split or double. I think I split. So I bet the 2 chips I had on me. I won them both. I had $400. Bet the 400, won. Had 800. Bet that, won at 1,600, and just ran up to 5K. And we took a break and we went upstairs. And to go from like $200 to 5K is like not unheard of. Like people do that stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Later on, I played again. The 5K went up to I forget the exact numbers, but it's like the 5K turned to like 13K.
And you're playing blackjack?
This was on blackjack so far. Eventually I changed to baccarat, and then to go from like 5K to whatever it was, 13K, super common. That's nothing to write home about. Took another break. The 13 turned to like 24. That's again nothing to write home about. Happened. The 24, I think I switched to baccarat and ran it up to like 125,000. That also is not. I 5X, like that's not unusual for someone to have 25K and leave it at 125K. Like that happens 100 times a day, every day in Vegas. Took another break. I took that 125 to another casino. I negotiated higher betting limits. They gave it to me. That 125, I don't know, it turned into like 300 or something like that, or 350. I don't even remember exactly. And then I took that money to a third casino where I negotiated even higher betting limits. They agreed. And then I forget, I had 300 or 350 or something. And to go from like, let's call it 300, from 300 to 800, again, is not a big deal. It's the same thing as having $300 and turning it into $800. Yeah. It's like not that big of a stretch. I just didn't have a single losing session in, over whatever it was, 5 to 7 short increments, short sessions. But I had to switch to all 3 casinos the second 2 so I can negotiate higher betting limits.
And the strategies you're using at the time, are those kind of private? Like you don't share those because you use them with people, or?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not gonna like explain all the details on like how I won, but people win every day,
What patterns are you looking for to gain an edge?
I can't say that.
I guess what patterns are you looking for to gain an edge in life?
In life, people. I think that people fall. I think every person falls into one of like roughly 5 categories of person, and you can tell almost immediately which category they fall into. If you're pleasantly surprised and they're in a different category, cool. Sometimes you could be surprised and you misjudge them, which I do for sure. But I think almost immediately you could figure out which of the 5 or so categories someone falls in, and you could immediately tell how to interact with them and what they're trying to get from you. And it's like you're able to know their cards before they even showed them to you.
Would you say you play the player or play the cards in poker?
Literally or figuratively?
Literally, yeah.
Literally in poker? I think I play the player more, which is probably the wrong answer, by the way. If you ask like other professional poker players, probably the cards are way more relevant. Also, the betting. The betting is actually like the most important part.
That's interesting. Tell me more about that, yeah.
Depending on someone's position at the table and how they're betting, you can almost get a pretty accurate read on what cards they're holding, and your cards become irrelevant.
You can't talk about the patterns you look for when gambling, but I guess when starting a new business, or if you were going to go into a new opportunity, you're doing acting now, and you wanted to become the very best at it, what patterns do you look for there to try to kind of speed run that, make it as efficient as possible?
I think realistically, I can't even answer that without making up an answer, because my journey into like acting and all the shows I've been doing and movies has been like super Unorthodox, probably. It was just directors reaching directly to me saying, Mikki, can you be in my movie? Can you be in my show? Me telling them, like, bro, I'm not an actor. And they go, perfect. We need you just to be you. And they see me online and they're like, that's the personality, or that's like the character that we need. So like, don't act, just be you.
More specifically, so if you were starting a new business, like you work with this company Kurgo, like what are you looking for to kind of gain an edge in that? Like, do you talk to certain people? Do you reach out to your connections first? Like, what's your first step to winning in something?
I probably look at the competition and say, what are they doing better than I can do on my own? And what can I do better than they're doing? And I try to balance the both, you know? Like, I see a lot of companies do things that I would have never thought of. And I'm like, that's sick. Like, Elvis Presley, his manager, also owned the company that had anti-Elvis merch. Because, like, half the world hated Elvis, half made it. So he goes, might as well capitalize on both ends. So he pumped out both, you know, merch and, like, pins and shirts and whatever. So Elvis can make all the money. I never would have thought of that on my own, you know? So I look at that and I go, that's great. Now, what can that's something they did better than me. So I was like, let me learn from that. And then I go, what did they do that I think I can do better? And I think, well, I can target a different style, right? They go like super commercial, but what about the underground? The underground is like super cult followings. So if I stay true to myself, which is like underground style, like I prefer the underground over like pop and commercialism. And I know from my experience that demographic is super hardcore, like ride and die and like cult following. So I go, well, what if I just focus on all that? Not worry about doing these big fancy things and just like stay true and target the people that I know will ride for me if I ride for them.
What's a casino scam most people don't know about?
There's so many. The first is those shuffle machines can set the cards in any order they want. They have eyes on them, they're laser beams, and they're reading the cards, and they have the ability to shuffle them. It's not a random shuffle. It's an organized, planned shuffle. So it will always be in their favor. There are a lot of things you can do to try to offset that. And so that's being a step ahead of the casino. That's becoming an advantage player. For example, if you can assume the casino assumes you will always play one hand. Let's say you're playing blackjack, and you're always betting one hand for the first 5 hands, and then you switch to 2. If they wanted to target you, they would set the cards knowing you're more likely than anything else to bet 5 single hands in a row and then switch to 2. So if you become privy to that, you can say to yourself, I know this is happening. I'm going to start with 2 hands. And then it completely ruins their plan.
So they keep track of the players.
Oh, for sure. For
and
sure.
What players are they targeting? Like high stakes players?
So there's like a blanket system they use for Gen Pop. They have the ultimate database of everyone's gambling behaviors. And they figure it out. I mean, their computers are so smart, smarter than I'll ever be, any of us will ever be. There's nations around the world that contract casino security to run their national security. That's how advanced the casino security systems are, which includes their intelligence. So they figured out, they go, for the most part, people will fall victim to the following patterns. So they will put that out there. Then they get a guy who's playing high stakes and he's winning. They go, this guy does not fall for the same trap that the majority of people do. Let's hone in on him. And then they look at his patterns and they go, how can we adjust our game for him to lose?
So there's like specific patterns they use in blackjack to get the most money out of you as possible. You
Correct.
know? So like they want you to win a certain amount of money so they can make you spend a certain amount of money. And
all of that is accurate. It goes, as a conspiracy, it goes so in depth. And don't forget, if all else fails, they still have standard house edge. They're always likely to win anyway. It's when somebody else is winning more than the casino wanted them to win that it becomes a problem.
How much do you have to win to become a target?
I would say it's over time, because anybody can one time win.
How do they keep track of that?
There's tons of ways. The first and obvious way is with your player ID. You always give a player's card or you give your ID. The first thing the pit boss does is they plug you into the computer. There's a computer on the side that you're not supposed to see. I mean, you could see the back end of it, but you can't see the screen. What they're doing is they're saying who you are and what seat you're sitting in. They're also saying how much you're betting and how long you've been there. And that's how they track your comps as well.
Do they track everything you do in Vegas?
Everything.
Like if you go to nightclubs, do they like put that into systems or is it not?
I would say not your average customer, but me, and there's others. Yeah, for sure.
What psychological tricks do casinos use to keep you addicted?
Everything. It's so funny because gambling addiction is fairly aligned with drug addiction and alcoholism and things like that. But when you turn on the TV, all you see is like, don't do drugs. When we were in school, we had the DARE program. You know, like you'll get arrested if you're on, if you have drugs or whatever it is. Gambling, if you turn on the TV, you see the opposite. You see the bright lights, the jackpots, the potential to win. They go, come to our casino and like explore your addiction, you know? And they do whatever they can to keep you there, from free food to the, putting interesting things around you, the entertainment, whatever.
What game is easiest to get addicted to?
I'd say probably slots. I never had that problem. I don't really play slots. I only say that because everybody knows mathematically, it's not a secret. You cannot win in slots long term. But slots is a casino's biggest moneymaker. So I'd say there's more people falling victim to slots just purely based on the evidence than any other game. And if everyone knows you can't win in slots, then why are most people playing slots? Why is that a casino's biggest income generator?
It's super addicting. Yeah, I've lost a lot of money in my day on slots, but I do like it though because it's easier to identify the patterns they're trying to trick you with.
Okay.
Like, I don't know. I had no idea about all the laser stuff and then shuffling the cards. Would you say that's probably the easiest patterns to pick up on, the slot machines? Or
you ever seen the internal mechanisms of slot machines? I have some videos that some friends have sent me of them opening up slot machines in like back rooms. Oh man, I wish I was like smarter to be able to really explain it. So when the slot machine's going, right? So imagine let's make it simple. Imagine there's 3 windows. Each window has its own wheel, right? And when they align, that means like all the bells align, on the thing, and that's how you win. Well, all you have to do, which is what they do, is slightly offset it. So all 3 can never hit at the same time until they tell it to. It's like an actual metal mechanism that's slightly off, which is why sometimes you'll see 2.5. It's because the mechanism is 2 that are aligned and 1 is offset. So slots are 100% not like organic, like 100%, not organic. They have a thing called RTP. You know what that is?
No.
RTP stands for return to player. So every game has a pretty standard return to player. It's a rate. It's a percentage, right? And slots have a range which they can legally adjust. And I think it's usually between 92 and 98% RTP. So the only way they can guarantee, so for every $100 you put in, you're only going to get back between 92 and 98. So you can figure your loss is going to be between 2 and 8% on every slot machine always. The only way they can guarantee that is if they set the game up, if they set the machine up. Otherwise, it's literally just a chance, but it's not. It's a guarantee 92 to 98% RTP. So how can they guarantee that unless they've fabricated it?
How long has this been going on for, like this Vegas thing? I don't know how much you know about the history, but like is there some dark history to all of this? How long have slot machines been around? Do you know any of this stuff?
Yeah. So forms of gambling and forms of slot machines have existed forever, really long time, way before now. Meyer Lansky and Bugsy Siegel were 2 Jews hired by the Italian mob to find an area that was close enough to the metropolitans that people can still get there, but further enough away that people wouldn't, like outsiders that were unwanted couldn't come and affect the place, right? So it's basically a lawless land, which is why it's called Sin City. So Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky, hired by the Italian mob, drove from LA X amount of time, and they just found a huge area of desert, and they go, this is the exact right distance to still get people here, but not people we don't want here. And they started building Las Vegas, Sin City. And it was originally created as a place where they can do whatever they want. In the time that was, like Italians were, like loan sharks and running numbers and, whatever they were doing, extortion and whatever, And they go, let's find our own place where we can do this. And they did. And that's what Vegas was. So it was set up exclusively to commit crime and take people's money and allow people like this adult playground, but it would always cost them money in the end while the Italians made the money. And then a lot of corporations came in and were like, this is great. Let's contribute. Like you have the Wynn. Steve Wynn is one of the guys that helped build Vegas. He's not a made man. He's a corporate guy. He's a corporate man. And I'm not accusing Steve, by the way, of having affiliation or not. Like, that's not what I'm speaking on. But I would say guys like him came in and really helped clean up very early on, helped clean up the Las Vegas concept.
Would you say it's still, or actually you said that they don't want certain people there. Who would they not want?
Like cops and, like people that would just interfere with their business, which was technically based in immorality and not strong moral ethics.
Is Vegas still mafia controlled?
Nah. It's more corporate control, but corporate gangsters are the biggest gangsters in the world.
Yeah. Would you say there's like the wealthiest individuals in the world are in Vegas, but they kind of hide the money in certain ways?
I don't know if I'd go that far. There are some really uber wealthy people in Vegas that go to Vegas that have business or homes in Vegas. But I don't think I would say Vegas has the highest concentration of the most wealthy people in the world.
Or I guess casino owners specifically.
Yeah, like Sheldon Adelson, he just died, but like his house is in Summerlin.
What's the shadiest thing you've seen a casino do to someone?
Shadiest?
Yeah.
Everything's shady. You know what irks me the most is when casino hosts pretend to be your friend. That bothers me the most. They are not your friend. They profit off your loss.
Tell me more.
They feed their kids more when you can feed your kids less. Their job is to be the intermediary between you and getting all of your requests. They act as the broker of requests to the casino. First of all, they're always lying. That's first. And second of all, they make money when you lose. So they have a quota. And the higher their salary is, means the higher their quota is. And their quota is based on your theo. Theo stands for theoretical loss. It doesn't actually mean loss. It means theoretical loss, which is a calculation of average bet size over length of play specific to the game you're playing. Like Baccarat, no matter how long or short it takes you to play one shoe, it's calculated as 1 hour. Where slots have the highest theo, which means you get the best comps for it because you're always guaranteed to lose in slots. Fun fact. So these guys and girls that are hosts, men, women, whatever, they're like, let me see if I can get you something. They also never tell you, by the way, how much you're entitled to in spending power because it's bad for them. Their boss looks at them and go, oh, you spent $10,000 on this player. Their theo was only $10,000. You broke even. That was a waste of a player. Now we have $10,000 less to spend on somebody else, to sucker them back into the casino. So they're just like, their job position is to lie, manipulate, and be fake to you. Try to win you over, take you out for dinner, get you gifts, act like they're doing you favors by giving you comps, giving you free this, free cash, free whatever. It's all nonsense to keep manipulating you and tricking you to come back and spend more money.
Did those people get paid well?
Some get paid pretty well.
Like what would you say, like 7 figures or?
No. Well, there's a hierarchy. So there's like a standard host, which is probably like, 70K a year, 70 to 90K a year. It was like the usually younger, they're new, entry level, whatever. Then there's executive hosts. The executive hosts are in the 6 figures. Then there's like corporate hosts, which is like the vice president of marketing, the president of marketing, and those guys. And those guys get probably near high 6, 7 figures.
Did you hear about the girl in New York? She hit a $42 million jackpot at a casino.
And they said it was an error.
Yeah, and she got like a $2.25 steak dinner.
Yep.
Have you seen any situations like that? Have you had that happen to you?
Stuff like that all the time.
Really?
All the time, yeah.
How can they not get sued for that?
So, I mean, they do get sued, and a lot of times they lose, but the entire state of Nevada's economic system is contingent upon the Las Vegas Strip. The entire state can only exist because of the Strip. So what they did a long time ago is people were basically complaining. They go, you guys are scam artists. You're cheating me. You're stealing from me, whatever. And they go, you know what we're going to do? We're going to create an agency here that's going to hold us accountable. And the people go, yeah, that's a good idea. So they picked who went there and what they're allowed to, regulate. And they go, create these regulations so that we're never breaking the law. So if someone does sue us, we can just show your paperwork that says, no, we're within the law, So all they did was create regulations like that allowed the casinos to do what they're doing without it actually breaking the law. It's like allowing the bad guys to police themselves. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just all bogus, but it quieted the people. And now the commission is like a real government department. So now when you try to sue, they're like, no. The commission said that we're allowed to always steal between 2 and 8% of your money on every slot spin. So we're not actually breaking a law. So what do you want to sue me for?
Have you ever been directly scammed out of a lot of money?
I mean, they try to cheat me all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they cheat me all the
But
time.
like, have you ever won like millions and they're like, oh, you can't get it for this reason?
I had one, it's on tape. The president of MGM International sent his right-hand man to talk to me and try to extort me, and I got some inside information, like moments before it happened. Somebody from the executive board called me and goes, hey, like, this is about to happen. I was like, all right, cool, I'm ready. So we got it on tape, audio and video, and they tried to extort me for $9.5 million. I told them to suck my dick, and I carried on, and they had my money in their system. Like, they already had it in their bank account. It was going to be a big fight for them to try to not give me that money back, and it was a fight. I ended up getting that money back, and I ended up winning. I had over $11 million. And it was between two casinos, and we were doing chip transfers. If you're not familiar, it's very rare this happens, but it does happen. You have chips from one casino, you want to play at another. Instead of cashing these out, taking the cash to this one, buying it and getting new chips, you just both casinos have to agree to this, by the way. But you have to take these chips directly to this casino. They're easy. Just put them in your pocket. You can put like $10 million in your pocket in casino chips, no problem. They're 100K chips, easy. You walk over to the other casino you want to play at, and you go, hey, I need you to buy these off that casino. They already communicated, so they know what's happening. You give them those chips, and they swap out for the new company's chips. So I was doing that. I had over $11 million. I went to cash out, and they gave me 2 checks, and it was only for $10 million. It was actually $11,526,000. It was during my biggest win ever. So they have the $11,526,000 in chips on the counter. They hand me 2 checks, and the checks totaled $10,526,000. And I'm like, yeah, I ain't got to be smart to figure this one out. I go, I think there's a miscalculation here, you know? And I said, you got $11.5 million of my money on the counter. They only gave me $10.5 million. And they go, call the other casino. So I call the vice president of the other casino. I go, hey, they told me to call you. I'm missing $1 million. And they go, who has the chips? I go, this casino does. He goes, so how do I owe you $1 million if they have the money? I go, I agree. I go, hey, the casino said they're not paying. You have to pay. And they go, we're not paying. And I go, we got to figure this out. Bro, the scene, I swear to God, if this ever gets reenacted in a movie, was so good. It was like the Three Stooges. So they bring 3 executives down. I'm standing at the cage in this casino. It's like a private cage. It's me and the 3 executives. And we're standing like in a real tight circle. All 3 are wearing suits. And I look at the guy to my right, who I knew. And I go, hey, where's my $1 million? And I swear to God, it was so crazy. He goes like this. He goes, so we're standing. So imagine I'm here, the guy I know's here, other guy, and you're the other guy. We're standing this close in a circle. I go, hey, where's that $1 million, you know? And he goes, that's not my job, that's his job. Points to him, and he goes like this. He goes, that's not my job, that's his job. And then the third guy gets it, and he goes, let me make a call. I'm like, what is wrong with you guys? We're talking about $11.5 million. What do you mean it's not your job? What are you talking about, you know? And they didn't want to pay it. They kept trying to blame the other casino, but it didn't make sense. They said, basically, they were using the chip transfer as their excuse why the other casino should be responsible for that last $1 million. So I got my lawyer involved, and that the first casino paid me the $1 million.
So you went to the other casino with the 11 million.
Oh, yeah.
Were you still playing?
Yeah, so I didn't bring the 11 million. I had whatever I had at the time. I'm going to make this up and say, I had 9.5 is what I had. I had 9.5 million from one casino. I brought it to the second. When I gave them the money on deposit. So I said, here's the chips, put it on my account. Then they tried to extort me for that 9.5 million, which was on the books. I handed them the chips from the first casino. I said, put it on the books. It's like, you know what a line of credit is?
Yeah.
It's the same thing, but instead it's prepaid. It's not like me borrowing. It's like, here's money. I'm going to pull from it like as if it's a marker. So I took the 9.5 million from the first casino, brought it to the second, put it on the books, and I have front money. They tried to extort me for that 9.5 million. I didn't fall for it.
What do you mean by extort you for it?
It's all on video, bro. I've posted it before. It's the guy says you have to bet more. And I go, well, I'm capped out at $250,000. You should give me $1 million a hand. I'll bet more. He goes, no. I said, my average bet is $243,000, and my max bet is $250,000 per hand. I go, how can I possibly bet more, right? They go, we need you to play 4 hours minimum a day. And if you don't, we're not giving you back this money. The fun fact about that is at the 4-hour mark, the house edge is always at its highest. For the first 3 hours, anybody can kind of dodge some house edge. If you want to call it luck or you want to call it timing or whatever you want to call it, the first 3 hours is more of a gamble than anything else. It's like more of a fair fight. But once you hit the 4th hour, you have such small chances of beating the house edge. That's when it's at its peak. So on camera, the guy says to me, he didn't know, honestly, he didn't know, but whatever, he was recorded. He goes, we need you to play a minimum 4 hours a day or you're not getting the $9.5 million back. And I was like, you can suck my dick. And he goes, if you don't do it, we're going to report you to the IRS. And what the threat there is, my taxes are more than good. That's not my concern. The concern is that if you're ever actually audited by the IRS, it is such a massive disruption of your life that it's like unbearable. Nobody wants to get audited by the IRS, even if you're clean, which I am clean. I know it. That wasn't my fear. My fear wasn't getting in trouble. My fear was dealing with it. And then for the rest of my life, I could be flagged as a potential, tax criminal. Just that, who knows how many times more I'll be audited just over this false claim. So I just stuck it through. I said, go ahead, report me. I said, at this point in the war, like, they're going to have to throw more than that at me, to deter me. And I carried on, and I won another few million bucks, so I have 11.5. They banned me, and when they banned me, I had to go cash out. So security walked me to the cage to cash out, and that's when I gave them the 11.5 million total, and they gave me a check for 10.5 million.
You said one time you don't let strangers play at your table. Why don't you let strangers play at your table?
Well, they're an independent variable. It's just one more thing you can't control. I can't control if they're going to do something that hurts or harms me. And I also usually play super fast, and other people don't play as fast. So it really gets me frustrated, and the more frustrated I am, the less focused I am on what I'm actually doing.
Why do you play super fast?
I don't know. I think I'm just super dialed. I think there's two parts. I think one, I'm just super dialed. The second part is the more time I give the casino, the more time they can manipulate something that's not good for me. So I'm always like, not yelling. I'm not a yeller, right? But I'm always like saying to dealers, like, hey, deal faster. Hey, flip the card. Hey, let's go. At cashiers, I'm always like, count the money faster. And if I have like millions in cash, it takes them forever to count it.
Yeah.
So usually what the pit bosses do, because I'm always like complaining about it, is they'll give me, so like, let's say for every 100,000 that gets counted, they just immediately hand me 100,000 in chips until however many millions is counted. Just so I can start playing while they're still counting.
One of our mutual friends told me that you have a bunch of these bags at your house.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the $250,000 bags.
$500,000.
Half a million.
I know what you're talking about. So the Sands, which is the Venetian and Palazzo, when you win $500,000, for every $500,000 you win. Hold on. The first thing is every casino has pre-packaged bags of cash. So like the Aria does $200,000 bags of cash. The Cosmo does 250 or 300, I can't remember. MGM Grand does $1 million bags of cash. Venetian and Palazzo do $500,000 bags of cash. Bellagio, I think, does like 100Ks. I forget exactly, but they come like in cellophane. So it's $100 bills. They're 10K bundles, and they put 5 10Ks together to make 50K. So now you have 50K bricks, and they layer bricks, and they put it in like the cellophane wrapped plastic, like clear, like a pack of cigarettes, basically. And they also have, every casino also has cages that the general public doesn't know about. You close the door, it's for safety, they put security there, it's like very inconspicuous, and they're for large transactions. And another thing is all the casinos have nondescript bags, like actual like shoulder bags, suitcases, whatever, that they slide their cellophane bags of cash into so you can walk around and nobody would be the wiser how much cash is in there or that there's any cash. So the Sands, Palazzo Venetian, they do $500,000 cellophane bags of cash, and they have these they're actually really nice, these beautiful, they look like laptop bags almost, shoulder bags. It's like a nice light tan leather bag with a flap, and when you take the $500,000 cellophane bag or whatever, the cash, it slides perfectly into the laptop slot of these shoulder bags. So for every $500,000 you win, they give you one of these shoulder bags to slip the $500,000 in. And I think I cleaned them out a few times, and we had to carry the rest in pillowcases. But I think I have something like, I want to say like in the realm of $15 million worth of these leather bag. I just use them as trophies now because they're just sitting there empty.
So how many bags would that be?
Whatever the math
Like
on
30
that.
bags,
Like
something
30
like that?
bags. Something like 30 bags, yeah.
What can you get for free in Vegas?
Everything. You can get anything for free in Vegas. You can get private jets, helicopters, villas, Maybachs, Rolls Royces, women, drugs, shows, floor seats, backstage access, stage access. You can get anything. Anything you want, you can get for free.
What have you gotten for free?
Everything.
All those things?
Everything.
Like how much can you get in free comps, would you say, at your point? Like, do you know the numbers on it?
Yeah, so so you can get 30% of your theoretical loss in spending power without any approval. And the host will never tell you that, but if you know that and you keep track of what your theo is, and there's a lot of ways to keep track of it, an easy way is you just literally ask the pit boss. You go, hey, what's my theo? You can also ask a lot of hosts. A lot of hosts that, for example, like standard hosts, like lower end hosts, they don't even know the game themselves. They don't know that they're giving you tools. You just say, hey, what's my theo? You could text your host, what's my theo right now? What's my theo on the trip? What's my theo for the day? What's my theo for the hour? Whatever. You could ask a pit boss, same deal. They put all your information on that monitor every time you sit down at a table. They'll just tell you. If they say your theo is $10,000, you can automatically have $3,000 in spending power anywhere you want without any other approvals. You just tell your host. If you know that you're allowed to spend $3,000 of that $10,000 in theo, by the way, theo does not mean loss. If you lose $10,000, that does not mean your theo is $10,000. If your theo is $10,000, you can spend $3,000 on anything you want. You just text your host, yo, I want a $3,000 comp slip for the steakhouse. Yo, I want $3,000 worth of whatever. You just do that, and they can do it without approval. They'll always try to push back on you because it's coming out of like their pool, right? Yeah. The hosts are not your friends; they're your enemies. No matter what they say and how many times they say no, just keep asking. Just keep asking. And if anything, just tell them, oh, my host over at your competitor, my host at the other casino, they told me I'll get it over there. Do you mind sending me a car so I can bring my bags over there? The host will go, okay, it's not my money anyway. Here's your theo. Here's your spending power.
What's something really interesting you've done with your theo? Like that you were surprised you could get?
One thing that was cool, not that this was like crazy expensive, but it was really cool. Kind of early on in like my high stakes Las Vegas career, me and my best friend noticed these like executive hosts and like VPs and presidents starting to come to our rooms when we would check in and just sit down and talk to us. And what we picked up on is that they were actually trying to fish for information to see what the competitor was offering so they can make sure not to overspend, but spend just enough more, you know? And this one guy said to me, his name is Jack. He said he was sitting in my dining room in my villa. It was me, my best friend, and him. And he goes, he's fishing, whatever. And he says, you ever been on a helicopter? And I go, yeah. And he goes, dang, I was going to see if you wanted to take this ride with me over the Grand Canyon. And I go, nah, seems kind of boring. It's too tame anyway. It's like, I don't care about the Grand Canyon, you know? And he goes, that's boring? And I go, yeah. And he goes, do you like racing cars? And I go, yeah. And he goes, my buddy owns the Las Vegas car racing team. Do you want me to see if I can get you in the driver's seat of their last year's race car? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, all right, hold on. And it was all like a thing. They already have a deal worked out, but he was trying to manipulate me. But anyway, I was like, yeah, of course. So the Las Vegas race team let me take their last year's race car on the racetrack at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway and just rip. I ended up crashing their car. It's a Lamborghini build. We went over 200 miles an hour just in like one part. It's like all like GoPro'd up. It was so sick, honestly. I crashed that car on the racetrack. Nobody asked me for $1.
Really?
Yeah.
They didn't care at all.
They told me beforehand because I was curious. They said everything is fully covered except any injuries you might occur. So if I got hurt, those bills were on me. I was like, yeah, that's fine. So I just took their race car on the racetrack and crashed. It was just sick, bro. It was just sick. I got a bunch of photos. They gave me like this plaque. It's on my wall in my office. It's like a hard plaque with a photo of me standing on front of the car. It was cool.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it was cool.
What's the most irresponsible bet you've ever placed?
I don't even know. I had so many. I used to do this thing with my buddies. It was actually non-monetary. All my buddies were like high-stakes gamblers. And we got this big house out in Vegas. I don't even know how many bedrooms. It was a lot. And like anybody coming into town could just stay at the house, you know? So it was almost like a hotel for the homies. And we would gamble every day, high stakes, no money. It'd be like, if you lose, you got to break up with your girl. If you lose, you know, you got to shave your eyebrows. If you lose, you got to go jump in the Bellagio fountains, you know, stuff like this. So probably all of those are my most irresponsible.
What one in particular did you lose? Or like something crazy you had to do that you bet on?
I was living in a particular villa that had a really big fish tank. And my one homie lost a bet, so he had to eat a fish alive. And I lost a bet, so I had to go swimming in that fish tank. So while I was in that fish tank, I had to catch one of the fish for him to eat.
What kind of fish was it? Like
It was actually too hard to catch those fish. They were like way too smart for me. And so I couldn't actually, we didn't have a net either. So we were like trying to rig up a net. I was trying to use my hands. It didn't work. So we ended up going to a fish store, and because the fish in the fish tank that he lost the bet to eat were really big. When we went to the fish store, he had to eat 2 live goldfish to make up for it. Yeah. Yeah, we got that on video too.
Have you ever had to get a tattoo for a bet that you've placed?
Nah, not really. But I think that's such like a low entry for me. Obviously, like I'm covered my whole head down to my toes in tattoos, that it's like, I don't think anyone would look at me and be like, oh, that's a bad consequence if you lose.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I guess you're trying to remove them actively. Yeah.
Yeah. I've been removing my tattoos 6 years now.
Have you gotten any in the past 6 years? Any new ones?
I got maybe like 4 years ago, I got my sister's name on my wrist. And I think like around the same time, I finished this little one on my ankle. It's actually my favorite tattoo, but.
What's the one on your ankle? Yeah.
So I don't say curse words anymore, but the tattoo is a Gucci flip-flop, and it says F your B. I don't say curse words, but
that's pretty sick.
I got a bunch tattooed on me.
So would you say, like, of all your tattoos, like, what's one you don't regret? This one?
This is probably my favorite one. I also like the placement of it. I also like the ones on my fingers. This one, the homie Norms did. He passed away. It was a collab with Norms A Big Sleep. Again, it's all curse words. I don't curse, but it says FBs get money.
Gotcha. Yeah. When did you get your first tattoo?
I got 2 at the same time when I was 15, I think. 15 or 16, 15, something like that.
So you got them before you started working in the tattoo shop?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I was super tattooed by that point in my life.
You said you don't curse, but you have a bunch of curse words tattooed to you. Why don't you curse?
Like 8 years ago when I was still in business, I was working 16 to 18 hours a day, 7 days a week for years. No family, no friends, no like leisure time, just working. And I always felt like I was still playing a game of catch up. So, and I always wanted to do more and be better and like make more money. And I knew like I couldn't work longer days. I was maxed out. I couldn't create more days in a week. I couldn't just magically be smarter. And I just kept saying like, what can I do to be better? And I know you can't create or destroy energy, only transfer it. So I was thinking, what are all the ways I can cut fat to refocus that energy into something more productive? And I started thinking about the cursing. And at the time, I already had a bunch of like curse words tattooed on me. Like I cursed a lot. Like I didn't have no issue with it. I was just trying to think what can make my brain work better. And I ran like a quick calculation, and I figured for every nanosecond of time I save my brain by not cursing, at the end of every month I've fabricated 2 hours of thinking power that my competitors didn't have. Because of all the time I saved not cursing. Imagine every sentence that you do curse in, you remove the curse. At the end of the month, for me, based on how much I cursed, I figured I would have an extra 2 hours worth of available space now.
That's really interesting. It's not anything like energetic or any negative to the world, you think?
No.
Nothing like that? It's like the actual saving of time.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. What's your body count?
Oh my God, it's the worst question ever. I don't know. I don't actually know. One time somebody asked me and I said 1,500. I just like guessed. And they were like, nah, no way. Like you gotta like have somebody like prove it, like see if someone has your back. I'm like, all right, I don't know. I'll call my best friend because he's with me. If you're just around me, you can get a pretty good gauge. So I call my best friend on the spot and I go, hey, I have no idea what the number is. What do you think? He goes, what did you say? I said 1,500. And he started laughing and he goes, not even close. I go, oh, it must be way less than, my bad. And he goes, no, it's way more. It's like 2,500. So I don't actually know, but.
When do you stop keeping count?
I never really kept count. I don't know. To be honest, this whole like, apparently people keep it in their iPhone notes, like all their bodies. I never even heard of that till recently. When I don't know how old you are, but for me, before, I grew up with no TikTok, before YouTube or whatever, all that, there was no like, that wasn't like a thing. It was only like when TikTok came around that people would do street interviews talking about body counts. For me, it was like no one's ever asked me that my whole life. I never thought about it. I never kept track. It was not, I don't know. I didn't think about it. And I don't sleep with women to be like, oh, I just got another one. Like I never thought about it like that. So I never kept track. I never even considered it.
When did you lose your virginity?
Not early. I lost it when I was, I think, 15. I was like 15 or so, between 14 and 16. I did a year in juvie, so I forget like exactly what age I had sex for the first time. But it was between ages 14 and 16.
Do you remember the story there? Was it anything interesting?
Not really. It was this chick. Her name was Jess. She came over. We started making out. We were at my parents' house. And I remember like we took our pants off and like I I tried to put it in, but like we kind of struggled, to be honest. Like neither of us knew what we were doing, you know? And it was like not romantic. It was like not exciting. It was like very anticlimactic. There was no climax. And then I remember like, we just kind of were like, she goes, hey, it's like kind of hurting a little. And I'm like, okay, no problem. And we stopped and we went into the kitchen to get water. And I was like, hey, did we just lose our virginity? And she's like, I think so. And I'm like, do you think so enough that like we should tell people that we're not virgins anymore? And she goes, yeah. And I was like, all right, cool. So yeah, I lost it, you know? And it was like that. And the next weekend was a different girl also named Jess. No.
The next weekend?
Yeah, the next weekend. No, I went on a good run, like immediately. The next weekend was this girl named, Alexis? Shucks. I forget her name. Really cute, really sweet girl. And there, it was a success. And then after that, I went like on a nice little run, like every weekend for like a short little while. And then I went to juvie. So I lost my virginity at 14.
Have you ever had any long-term monogamous relationships?
I've only been in long-term relationships my whole life. Yeah, this is the longest I'm single right now. All my relationships, like my high school sweetheart, I was her first kiss when we were little kids. We know each other our whole lives. And we were together like all through like on and off through like middle school, stuff like that. I go to juvie, I come out of juvie, and I met her. We like re-met each other after juvie the next day. Because I flew back the day before junior year of high school started. And I got transferred to a different school. And it was the school she went to.
This is in Jersey?
In Jersey, yeah. And I ran into her in the hallway on the first day of school, junior year. And she was with some of my old friends. And long story short, she made a comment when she seen me. So I talked to her later that day, and like she came over that night, and then we were just inseparable for 6 years. And then we split up. Then I started dating my next girl. We were together for 4 years. And then that girl, she used to like it when I would like be with other girls sometimes. She would like, if I was out working a long day, she would shoot me a phone number and be like, call this girl. She wants to give you head. She's in your area. And I'd call and be like, yo, Bab said you want to give me head. And she'd be like, yeah, this is my address. Like, pull up. So like my girl that I was with for 4 years used to be like that. And so I started seeing another girl while I was still seeing Babs. And Babs like, she was like cool about it. But then when Babs and I did eventually break up, I was still in that next relationship that I already started. And she and I were together for 3 years. And then after that, when she and I split is when I moved to LA. And then I was in a relationship with that girl that I was here in LA, like my whatever last one was 3 years as well. We lived together. All my girlfriends lived with me. And she and I, this last one, we were supposed to get married. Like I knew it, she knew it, my family knew it. Like it was like the plan, you know? And then like right before we did it, basically we had a falling out, something happened and I just couldn't pull through. I had to break up with her.
What does heartbreak teach you?
Only bad things. There's like no good lessons from it.
Really?
Yeah, unless you can find your own integrity in the heartbreak. I mean, your own accountability in the heartbreak. Like if you can look deep enough and be accountable for your part in it, then you can learn. But when it really wasn't you and it's really the other person just did some wild off the wall stuff. At the end of the day, like there's no positive lesson from there.
So your birth name is, I thought it was Mike, but it's something else.
Yeah, Mordecai.
Mordecai.
Yeah, fine.
Why'd you change your name from Mordecai?
When I was born, that was the name that was given to me. But my parents, when I was born, were like, yo, we have to give him an Americanized name. Like they don't want me to get picked on or be like ostracized or anything like that for having like a non-American, traditional American name. So they made it Michael. And the translation from Michael back into Hebrew is Michael. So I went with Michael for a long time. And when I was a teenager, my goal in life was to be a porn star. And like that was like my thing. And I always was picturing like the Dirt Diggler, like naming lights, like this whole thing. So I was like, I'm gonna go by Mikki. And then I knew Mikki comes from Mikhail, but I knew like as a porn star, you would need like a full name. You know what I mean? So that's when I had like the Dirt Diggler idea. And I was like, oh, let me come up with a last name. And it came to Mikki Mase. And then I started selling drugs pretty young. And I started like spending time in the hood and then living in the hood and just like being there. You know, I was like, you know, committing petty crimes or whatever. And like, I should probably start using an alias now. And so I just started in the hood saying, oh, my name is Mikki Mase. And then it just stuck. So since I was a teenager, that's what everybody calls me now.
Why'd you go with Mace? Just sounded good?
It just sounded good. It was like that Dirt Diggler. Like, it could have been anything, honestly, but it just sounded good at the time. I still like it.
You wanted to be a porn star?
Yeah, that was like my life's ambitions, yeah.
Huh. Why's that?
I don't know. My dick's probably my best feature, but I did set the bar really low. So like, that doesn't mean that much. But I don't know. I just was like, It just seemed cool. Like,
Have you acted in any porn films?
some of my tapes have been leaked, but they get wiped pretty quickly. And like in my social life, I've slept with many female stars, so I'd say I pretty much got everything short of promoting it on adult websites.
Would you marry a porn star?
Nah.
Why?
Nah, I wouldn't be with anyone who's a sex worker. Yeah, like emotionally. You know, or that's not even totally accurate. I can have an emotional relationship with someone who's a sex worker, right? Whether it be an OnlyFans girl or a porn star or a stripper, like I can have love for that person and receive love from that person, but I will never be able to fully give myself to that person.
Why do you think that is?
I think first, anybody who does that suffers from some form of mental illness. And I think that mental illness can always exhibit itself in different ways throughout life. And I don't think I'd be willing to sign up for something with confidence that sometime down the road it will be in a fashion that I'm not prepared or willing to handle. You know, if they're doing sex work now and they're however old, in their 20s, I don't know, and we get married, by the time they're in their 40s, they'll probably quit doing sex work because they'll be old and beat up, you know. Nobody wants to pay for that anymore. So they go, let's go find a different avenue, right? And let's say they're not even working anymore. Now it's just something in their brain that made them believe that being a sex worker was an acceptable social standard will also allow them to think other unnormal, not standard, unorthodox, inappropriate things are also a norm. And if that's my wife, then she projects that on me, and I don't know if I'm willing to deal with that, especially the mystery of not even knowing in which ways it'll exhibit itself towards me.
Would you say you're a fairly anxious person?
Not anxious.
Maybe paranoid?
I wouldn't say paranoid. I think sometimes I'm hyper aware.
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from?
Probably growing up, I've seen so many bad things and so many bad things happen to me that like I'm always just looking for that first. I'd rather try to find the bad before the good because I don't want to fall victim to the bad before I had a chance to see it.
What's the closest you've ever been to death?
Ah, so much, man. So much. So much. I don't know. I can't even give you one story so much times. I don't know.
What about the closest? Like the most certain you're like, this is it. Yeah.
I don't know. I got some these aren't like the closest I've ever been to death, but they're like the cooler stories. If you want to hear some of those.
Yeah, for sure.
The second time I was pistol whipped was kind of a funny story. I used to live in this town called Asbury Park, which is pretty ghetto. You know, it's pretty rough. And I used to live above this bodega, 4J's. Or I think it was 4J's. I don't know what it is now. But anyway, I had ended up moving out of there, but my boy that I lived with, Nick, still lived there. So I go see him once a day and buy a little something and just whatever. And I go to see him one day. I call him, I'm on the way. He goes, cool. I'll take the usual. And I pull up and I walk into the bodega to buy a drink or whatever. And these two dudes, one's named A-Dub, the other's named Fat Boy. And they were standing at the entrance to the bodega. And like, yo, what's up? What's up, bro? You need something? I go, nah, I'm good. And one whipped out a wad of cash. The other whipped out a wad of product. And they go, yo, we're solid, bro. Let us know. I go, nah, I'm good. I went to the store, bought what I bought, left the bodega. And I called Nick. I go, bro, I'm outside. But he didn't answer. So I'm calling him. And my boy was driving. I'm calling Nick. And he's not answering. I'm like, I'm like, screw it. I said to my homie, I said, bro, I'm just going to grab something off the dudes at the bodega. So I walk up. I go, all right, I'll take some. And they go, all right, meet me at the spot. The thing is, I used to live above this bodega, right? So I knew everything about this area. I was so dumb. So there's a building directly across the street that sits next to an empty lot. And the way the one side of the building is, it's angled a little bit, and there's a light over the doorway on that building. So from that doorway, you can see everything, but from the street, you can't see that doorway. And that was the rob spot. You would take people there to rob them because you can see what's happening. You can see if somebody's coming, but they can't from there see anything. Yeah. So he goes, yo, the block's real hot. Meet me at the spot. I'm like, all right, come on, let's get this over with. So we go over there, and he's standing super cocked sideways. And I'm like, why are you standing like that? And I go to grab his hip. I'm like, you got a gun? I go to grab his hip, and he hits my hand. He goes, don't touch me. I'm like, whatever, man. I said, just give me what I got to get, And he's like, you got the money? I said, yeah, of course I got the money. And he goes, let me see it. And I go, nah, bro, just give me what I need. And he goes, I go, bro, I'm just going to crumple it so you can hear the sound of the money. And as soon as I crumple it, he pulls out this revolver, bro. It's like this big. You know what I thought? It looked like he... it looked like he stole it from like his great granddaddy's, you know, inheritance, whatever. It looked like it was like like a novelty item. This thing was like this big, looked like it came straight off a pirate ship, like buried treasure. But he pulled it out and I go, suck my dick. And he goes, wah! And he smacks me in the face. So if you see the scar, it starts here, it goes all the way around my eye. That's from the pistol. And then this one, my whole eye here is a full scar around it. Skateboard, pistol, brass knuckles. So this whole eye is just a scar.
This one's brass knuckles?
No, this big one here,
yeah,
that's scarification. I carved that into my face. That's a letter G. This one that goes here?
Yeah.
I did that.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But finish this pistol whip story. This is crazy.
Yeah, so he whips it out and I go, suck my dick. And he goes, wah! And he smacks me in the face, busts my whole face open. And so I'm walking to the car because my boy was driving. He parked in the street. So I'm walking and my boy told me to him what it looked like when he finally could see us because, again, it's the rob spot. So it's like, you know, a hidden vantage point. When we were finally close enough to the car for him to see us, it looked like me and him were just bumping shoulders like, get out, I'll see you next week, you know, like that. He didn't know that he actually had the revolver to my head and that my shirt was all ripped and I was bleeding everywhere. So I go to open the car door and the car lights turn on and that's when my boy seen all the blood and the gun in my head. I just hopped in the whip and we looked up and it was just like all his homies just had surrounded the car. This is what it felt like to me at this moment. What it felt like is my boy straight Tokyo drift like, you know, just got out of there. I don't really know, like, he might have just drove straight, like mad anticlimactic. I don't really remember, but it felt like that, you know? So I just remember like all the people around the car and my boy just got out of there. And then Nick calls me. So I'm bleeding everywhere. So my boy's like, bro, we got to go get you stitched up. I'm like, I don't want to go to the hospital. So I went to CVS and we got butterfly stitches and I let my boy just, you know, fix my face or whatever. And then Nick calls me. He goes, my bad, bro. I was in the shower. I was this, I was that. I was like, all right, I'm coming back. And the thing is, again, he still lived in my old apartment above the bodega where this just happened. And my boy driving's like, we're not going back tonight. And then I went home. I was pretty young. I was like, I don't know how young I was. I was young, like 19 or something. And I was staying at my grandparents' house. And I woke up in the morning and they seen my face, my whole one side of my face. I didn't know, but I broke my face. I didn't know that at the time. So my whole one face was swelled shut and, you know, like got the bandages everywhere. They start freaking out, like, you got to go to the hospital. I'm like, fine. I go to the hospital. They fix me up the best they can. And then after the hospital, I go back over to see Nick. I've seen him like every day. And I go to walk in the bodega and I'm with Nick. And I turn around and A-Dub and Fatboy are in there. So I start going off. I'm like, you guys are pussy. You guys should see me in the field. Let's shoot the fair one, blah, blah. Neither of them wanted to fist fight me. And then the big homie was there and they were like, our bad. We didn't know who you were, which is not true because they knew who I was. I was there every day, right? They go, we didn't know, like, you're with, da-da-da-da-da, like, whatever it was, our bad, basically. And I just call them a bunch of pussies. Then a little bit time later, I went to the county jail, and I was in the same pod as Fatboy. So we squashed the beef. It was whatever, you know. It's like some dumb street beef, whatever. And we squashed it. We were in jail together for like a year. I came out. He came out. We didn't like stay in touch or nothing. But I'm driving around the neighborhood again, and I seen Fatboy on the sidewalk walking. I was like, yo, Fatboy, what up? And he has this big gash across his face. And I said, what happened? He goes, oh, I got shot in the face the other day.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
So how about this? You carved the letter G into your face.
Yeah. That's what this one here, that's what this one is.
What happened there?
I just was doing scarification. Like, I started tattooing my face pretty heavily before, like, Spotify was, like, a thing, or SoundCloud was a thing, you know? So this whole, like, SoundCloud rapper look didn't exist at the time. But then it started getting heavy, and everyone's tattooing their face. And I'm like, dang. I don't know. I felt like, I don't know. I didn't like it. I didn't like that after I tattooed my face, it became very popular. It ruined the effect that at the time I was going for. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to do something different. I was big in the body mod stuff. And I said, let me do something different. And I just like thought about it, and I was working on a bunch of different body mods, and an easy one to do was scarification. So I drew up the letters, like this big gothic letter G, and we put it on my face, and then my boy took a scalpel, carved it, started cutting it away from the tissue. It ripped in half, and I ate half of it raw, and then he cut the other half off, and I took it home to saute.
You said you ate it?
Yeah.
Why'd you eat it?
Well, I know what human tastes like.
What does human taste like?
Honestly, not special. It tasted like a piece of leather wrapped in a penny. It was just like, it didn't like really have a taste. The blood was the most, like, you tasted the blood more than anything. You couldn't like taste the flesh. You couldn't taste the meat. There was like nothing.
Is that common practice in scarification? Or did
Probably
you just
not.
like, you're like, I have human flesh, might as well just eat it?
That's how I felt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. While they were cutting it, it was my best friend, at the time. He was cutting it, and it ripped, and I was like, bro, let me eat that. Or maybe he said it first, whatever. I don't know. But I was like, yeah, put that thing in my mouth,
Yeah.
And I just ate it. Yeah.
Why the letter G?
I tell people it stands for Gladys, my grandma.
What tattoo was the most painful? Probably that. I guess that's not a tattoo.
Nah. That one didn't hurt as bad. The back of my head, my palm, the second time we did my eyelids, the second time we did one of my ears, and my kneecap. Those were all like my worst.
The eyelids?
Yeah. The second time we did my eyelids was real bad.
So which was the worst, if you had to say? Like, you wouldn't do it again?
The worst? The back of my head, maybe, because it took longer.
Where in the back of your head?
Like my whole head's tattooed.
Like your scalp? Okay.
Yeah, like my entire head's tattooed.
Okay.
And we did the whole back in one sitting. That one, maybe I wouldn't do again. That's not true, because I probably am doing it again, actually. That I don't know, man. I think my eyelids was when we did like the brow bone. Like that was probably like the worst.
You said your life is a byproduct of how your brain works.
Yeah.
How does your brain work?
I'm not exactly sure. This happened. So we're filming this TV show, and all the producers keep wanting to focus on like all this cotton candy nonsense. My love life, my sex life, the dirt bikes, the paintball, the parties, the gambling, the money, the going out, like the people around me. Like they want to keep focusing on all this stuff that I think is corny. I think the money's corny. I think the girls are corny. I think the gambling's corny. And if I could start all over again, I'd never post about I would never even tell anybody I gambled. I just want to be funny on the internet. All that other stuff is just nonsense to me. I think it's mad whack. And so this TV show, all the producers really want to focus on that. And I'm like, yo, I think you guys are missing it. You want a show about me, right? And they go, yeah. And I go, that's not who I am. Those are just things I do and I can do because of who I am. So a big piece of it, I think, is I don't want to say these in my own words because it sounds like kind of narcissistic, so I'll tell you what they said. After having many months of these discussions, they did realize that. They go, my life, which is all these side quests and things, is a byproduct of my brain. The way my brain operates and navigates my life allows me the opportunities to do these things on the levels I do them.
What about your brain do you think is different?
I think the way that I perceive things is probably unorthodox. I think the way I understand things is uncommon. And I think those things help me develop really strong beliefs about things that people have struggled to understand.
What do you excel at perceiving?
How things work. Behaviors, patterns, mechanics.
I've heard you say several times in this interview that you wish you were smarter, you're not that smart. Would you say you have a high IQ?
I do have a high IQ. I took a bunch of tests. I think it was like 9 years in a row through like all my development ages, and every year I scored genius intelligence. But it's like a really weird thing to talk about, and say, and it's like I don't think it means anything either. Like there's people way smarter than me that don't do anything with their lives. There's people way smarter than me that do things I'll never achieve with my life. So I don't think that there's people that do more than me with their life that have a lower IQ than me. So I don't think that IQ directly correlates to any form of success. But everyone also has their own vision of success.
Is IQ important in gambling?
I don't think IQ is directly important in gambling. I don't think it hurts. But I know dumb people that make money gambling all the time. I know people that have never gambled in their life that sit down one time, know the basic understanding of the game, and just win. Like it could happen.
I guess like the advantage players, would you say they're all typically high IQ?
Most advantage players are probably high IQ, but it's not a requirement. Like you can learn, like for example, counting cards. If you know how to count cards, you're an advantage player. You can go right now on your phone, on YouTube, and learn how to count cards correctly. And you don't got to be a genius to do that. To watch a YouTube video.
You haven't talked about the patterns you looked for and the competitive edges that you have. Have you seen other people have these? Like the things that you figured out about gambling, have you seen other guys using them?
A lot of them, yeah. There's like a large network of us, and most of us communicate. Most of us know each other.
Do you share secrets, or are there
Sometimes.
some things you won't share?
We'll sell each other's secrets a lot.
How did Vitaly rob you?
Oh, god dang it! I'll just mention it vaguely, and then we can move on.
He's tomorrow's guest, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know what? I'm so curious to get his take on it, but I don't think he's going to answer. I think if you asked him anything about me, that's what he's going to say. He's going to go, Mickey's a good gambler and he can't much, and that's what you're going to get out of him.
I do have a segment on the podcast. It's more toward the end, but I can do it now. It's like, what question would you have for our next guest? So what question would you have for Vitaly?
Why didn't he pay me or give me my credit?
I feel like you know the answer to that. Yeah.
Yeah, 'cause he's an idiot. He's just greedy and stingy. I mean, his whole life, if you look at his track record, his whole life is burn and turn. He has burned everybody in every phase of his career, every time he goes up and every time he goes down.
So if you've seen that pattern before, why did you go into business with him originally?
I did it out of the goodness of my heart. He DM'd me. Apparently I met him one time. He tried to pull a prank on me, but I didn't fall for it. I'm also kind of a hard guy to prank, like his style anyway. Yeah. And but basically the first time we've ever spoken, he had DM'd me and he goes, "Hey bro, I'm trying to make a comeback in my brand. I would love to have you be a participant in it. You know, you're super clouded and you're popping off, and I would love to have that on my stream. I'm trying to come back." And I hit him back and I go, "I like some of your stuff. Like, what are you thinking?" And he sent me a list of stream ideas. And one of the ideas was catching pedophiles. And I said, "Look, bro," I go, "that's a win for the whole world, catching pedophiles, you know?" I said, "Whatever I need to do to make sure that happens, sign me up." And that was the start. That was the prefaces of everything. So he goes to Russia, he puts me in touch with his manager, this young kid named Luke. Remember, I took Luke out on his 21st birthday. So we met when he was still 20. And Luke is telling me like details. He's helping plan, and I'm participating like super. Like, I went above and beyond to make sure all this happened for Vitaly. It was a full-time job. But I really just love the idea of giving the business to pedophiles, right? And probably no one will disagree with my opinion on this, but I'm very anti-pedophile. That was a slam dunk for me, and I was like, I'm going to put my whole life on hold for a few weeks to see this one through. So I'm working on it, and we finally come to the stream, and they agree. Like, they're like, screw everything else. If that's the one you want, let's run that. I go, that's the only thing I care about is catching pedophiles. So we do the stream, and it breaks Vitaly's personal streaming records, all-time records, right? For me, I felt great about it, bro. Like, we seen a bunch of pedophiles get beat up, bleed, hurt, like really see fear directly in their eyes. The fear that they put in children, us adults put back into these monsters, I felt really good at the end of the day. I was like, I did my maximum effort today to stop pedophilia, And for them, they don't care about that, by the way. They just care about the views and the money. So even though our journey was different, our end goal was aligned. So at the end of that stream, we cut the cameras and they said to me, "Mikki, we did so good today. Impromptu, can you come back tomorrow? We'll do another one of these pedophile streams." And I go, "Absolutely." So I come back the next day, but they asked me to pay for more things. They asked me to pay for their van. They asked me to pay for all the security. They had no money. Vitaly was 100% broke, $0. So I started paying for things. We do the second stream, and we re-broke Vitaly's personal records. We broke the records on day 2 than we did on day 1. They ended up deleted the whole stream of our second time doing it because I wore a shirt that said XQC protects pedophiles. You saw that shirt?
I didn't see that shirt, but I saw the clips about him
saying it. Yeah, so he was trying to protect the pedophiles that me and Vitaly and like my security were going after.
Yeah, he was like, "Kick does not endorse this."
Yeah, he goes, really weird. Yeah, mad weird stuff. Yeah. He goes, "The pedophile can trip and get really hurt, and we don't endorse this, and we don't like this. This is L content. Like, we shouldn't be doing this. Like, all this weird stuff protecting pedophiles." And he did it multiple times, sitting next to Aiden Ross. They were live reacting to mine and Vitaly's live stream. Aiden was looking at him like you could see, like, it's sometimes I can understand when you're faced with something that it's really hard to know how to stand on business. I can understand you want to avoid that confrontation. It's like a natural instinct, a lot of people. So, like, let's say me and you were talking and you said something that is totally wrong and I disagree with. There's a lot of people, and I don't necessarily fault them, that instead of telling you, "Hey, bro, that's not cool," because that's not who they are, they're not confrontational, they would more so just passively be like, "I don't know about that. Let's go on to the next topic," right? So you can see Aiden Ross doing that to XQC. He was very like, I don't know, bro. And like one time Aiden was like, I don't know, bro. Like what they're doing is pretty good, you know? And XQC just kept going. He goes, this is bad. They shouldn't be doing it. They shouldn't be. The pedophile can get hurt, da-da-da. And I seen that and I go, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
I go, no chance. So the next day I went on wearing a shirt that said XQC protects pedophiles. So Kick, so XQC having a piece of Kick naturally wanted to rid themselves of this bad PR. So they deleted the entire stream that ended being day 2 where I wore the shirt. And then if you looked, it was so funny. I seen it all over Twitter. Every single one of the reviews on the App Store for Kick was all about it being a pedophile sympathizing app. And like, I don't know, for like 2 weeks, like XQC and Kick couldn't get away from this bad PR that they support pedophiles for speaking out against me trying to stop pedophiles.
Do you wish you could do those streams still with Vitaly?
I would like to clean up more of the world from pedophilia. I'd love to rid the world of that. I saw immediately. So me and my people always are like strapped, right? And when I first did his first stream, I didn't know the rules. I didn't know what was happening. So we came the most prepared. So I get on there and I go, hey, bro, like, what are the rules? Like, are we working with the cops? Like, do we have, like, I'm assuming this is on such a huge level, like Chris Hansen, To Catch a Predator, worked with local PD, right? So I'm asking, I go, are we with the police? Like, do we have some realm? Like, do we have the ability to act outside of standard laws that are controlling civilians? And he goes, no. And I go, so we can't shoot them, right? And he goes, no. I go, okay, so can I point a gun at them? They go, no. So I go, okay. I go, here, take my guns. So I give whoever my guns, right? I go, okay. Can we beat them up? He's like, no. I'm like, well, what can we do?
Yeah.
And he goes, nothing, bro. We're regular civilians. We are not working with local law enforcement. We do not have special jurisdiction. I go, okay. He goes, yeah, I'm going to make them eat a hot chip. I go, what? And he goes, yeah, we're going to do a 1-chip challenge on the pedophile. Are you talking about the chip that TikTokers eat for fun? And he goes, yeah. He goes, that's not bad enough? And I go, nah, we should kill these dudes. And he goes, well, we can't. I go, okay, well, we got to do something besides a 1-chip. And I had seen, to answer your question in short, do I wish I could have continued doing that? Yes, I wish I could continue to rid the world of pedophilia.
But you felt like it wasn't effective through that medium, perhaps.
The people around me were taking it really far. And there was so much camera footage that I think it would be really hard for anybody to have gone any further with their off-camera consequences while continuing to make sure it wasn't on camera. I think it would have led to a lot of good people getting in bad trouble and bad people continuing to do bad things.
What happens to predators in prison?
First is they have to get to prison. There's so many lines of defense they have protecting them from even making it to prison. But when they get to prison, they have one of two options. They live a miserable existence in prison, or they have to check in. And they usually check in at the door. So when you walk in, the first thing that happens is you get approached and you get asked to show your paperwork. When you show your paperwork, even if you try to avoid it, you could try to avoid it. All it's going to do is make it worse. You got to show your paperwork when you walk in. A lot of times the COs will tell you before someone walks in, hey, yo, that a chomo's coming in, right? You get to the door, you check your paperwork. If the paperwork's good, you're good, you live, you go find your people, right? Everybody's got their affiliation or their group or whatever, or their color, whatever it may be. You go find your people and you go live your life, go politic with them. When you check your paper and you're one of them, almost immediately you check the door, you're checking in. That's PC, protective custody. That's like the jail inside the jail, you know? And that's where like the rest of the rapists and child molesters and like cops that are in prison, like they have to check in there. They also have their own special prison sometimes, but they have to either check in there or they live a real miserable existence.
Who did you politic with? Like, who was your group?
I don't want to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to say.
So you've gambled for celebrities like Drake, OBJ. Did you ever gamble for Diddy?
I never met Diddy. I never talked to Diddy. I've never seen Diddy. I've never been in the same room as Diddy. His fame declined when mine was on the rise. So probably lucky, like, I would never engage in any of that stuff. Like, I'm not, but just like guilty by association, you know, the stars were not aligned, which was good, you know? I don't ever even want to, I have no desire to even be in the same room as him, you know what I mean? So for me, it was, I've never even met him, never talked to him.
Who else have you gambled for that maybe you haven't said before?
That I haven't said? I don't know. Government officials, politicians. Yeah. And I'm not going to say who, but some California politicians.
Was it all because of like your personal brand that all these people started reaching out to you?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing that ever happened, I had like 10K followers. I was anti-social media my whole life. The short story is I made an Instagram finally, like with super like resistance to it, but I made it just for my own entertainment. I had maybe 10K followers, and I never filmed stuff for my life because I was like, I don't have social media. Why would I post it? Like, I'd rather live life now than later through a lens. So I never like had videos unless they were randomly taken to like send to the homies or something like that. So I had like 10K followers. The only like content I've ever posted is like random stuff I had, like me and my buddies had like on our phones or whatever. And Drake followed me and hit me in the DMs, and he was like my first cosign. He like had me come out, posted me on his Instagram, stuff like that. So like that went, and then when people seen that he did that, like he like co-signed me or whatever, obviously it carried a long way. Like he's a big voice, obviously. A week later was Lil Baby. Lil Baby had me fly out to Vegas. I was on stage with him, which was like one of my first experiences on stage like that, and it was super cool. And we're really, really close friends to this day. We were just out in Miami, went out together like 2 weeks ago. And then I gambled with him. I've been gambling with Baby for like a few years. But that first particular time, he took so many videos of me gambling with him and posted it, and we won a bunch of money. He was down 80K when I got to the table. He got there before me. I won his money back plus $250,000, and he posted the chips. He posted me like all types of mad love, and that went a really long way as well. And I think in the beginning, a lot of people from those demographics, like that fan base, saw a guy that looked like me and goes, I could relate to that. I'm already like most, like rappers have like tattoos and like stuff like this. So if you're in the fan base of these rappers, then already I look like somebody that you would probably like, in that regard. So they can relate in that sense. And then these guys are posting me like, yo, he's making me mad money. So people now want to know more about me. So I think that all like kind of built up. And then these other artists and ball players and people like that would just see all their friends co-signing me and how much money I'm making them. And I look like this. So I was really relatable in so many senses. And yeah, I don't know. It just like kind of popped off. And then when I stopped gambling, at that point, I was in so much content with so many like superstars around the world, just being myself, that people started to like kind of gravitate away from Mikki the gambler and just Mikki Mase. And like they started to like really kind of get hold of just like my personality, like or whatever it is, who I am. So now it's not even about gambling. People just like having me around. Like Famous Dex lives in my house. Rich the Kid used to live in my house. Like all these people, and like has nothing to do with gambling.
Which of those celebrities were you surprised at how good they were? Maybe was there anyone that
Lil
you're like,
Baby? Yeah,
Lil Baby's a good gambler.
Yeah, people ask me that all the time, and I always say like he's probably. Oh, and Tusi. Lil Baby, I was really surprised with how he gambles. Very surprised. It was really cool. Tusi for sure. Like Tusi, it's interesting. I've ran into him in private rooms before in high limit, like not planned. Like we were both in Vegas at the same time, walked by each other, and we're like, what? And like hugged and like gambled together. So like he on his own is a high stakes gambler. And when he messages me a lot of times, it's like he wants to talk about like real advanced information about gambling. A lot of these like celebrities that just make all this money and like dick off gambling, whatever, they just gamble for fun, like for sport. But the way he asks me questions and the way he listens to the responses, and I watch him like utilize my information, is somebody that's looking for a higher understanding of gambling, not for sport, not for entertainment.
What question can you ask someone to know they're an advantaged gambler?
You can kind of tell by the way someone responds, right? If you're like, for example, hey, what game do you like to play? They go, I like to play Baccarat. I go, oh, what's your betting limit? Whatever they say there, usually if you gamble for real, you know exactly what your betting limit is. And if you don't, you'll say a number, and I know what all the real numbers are. So you'll say a number that doesn't exist. Like there's no, like if you're like, oh, I bet, I don't know, whatever, like 30K, right? There's really no casino that offers 30K. If you're like, oh, I bet 100K a hand, I'm like, oh, what do you deposit for that? If they don't have an answer, then it's because they're not betting 100K, or if they give the wrong answer. There's an exact number of what you have to deposit to be able to bet 100K. So if you don't say that number, then you're already just
What's the number to deposit?
It goes like this. It goes, starting limits in Caesars are 25. Starting limits in all the MGMs are 20. You can get 40K for 350,000. You can get 50K for 500,000. You can get 75K for $1 million. You can get 100K for 1.5 at one particular casino. You can get 200 at half the casinos for $3 million. You could also get 250 for the same $3 million at the other half casinos. And the ones that offer the 200 sometimes will offer 300 for $5 million.
What's something impressive you've seen Little Baby do while gambling? Like
It actually,
him turning a certain amount of money, or
it actually wasn't what I saw him do. It's what I heard about. So I had an executive reach out to me, very upset, because he used to play blackjack. He was like a big blackjack player, but he was like a losing gambler. He would lose more than he wins. I taught him how to play baccarat, and they were pissed because he stopped playing blackjack. He only plays baccarat, and he turned into a winning player. An executive called me real pissed off about it. And then I was with it was me, Lil Baby, Roddy Rich, and Kifa, and we're all gambling together. And they threw all of us out because they were with me. And then then I convinced them to let me be there if I don't say anything. I was like, it's really good marketing because if I leave, they leave, and if we leave, then we're not in your building making videos. If you let me sit here, I won't say a word, but it'll be good marketing for you. So they did that, and that was the last time they ever allowed me any form of coaching or sitting at the table again in that building.
because they did well?
Yeah. And all I did was sit there. It was during COVID time, so we had to wear masks, so I was still talking. I don't know if they knew that or not, but I was.
What's the most insane meltdown you've seen from a gambling loss?
I've seen all types of meltdowns from gambling losses. I mean, everything you could think of, but like, I really don't pay much mind to it, to be honest. But people do everything. People like ruin their lives over gambling every day.
Or like a friend of yours, have you seen them like just go off the deep end from it? Or
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people go off the deep end. You know, they end up turning to drugs to try to cope with the self-hate and the self-loathing and the sadness and depression. They get addicted to drugs. They divorce from their wives. They lose their kids. They lose their house, their cars. I've seen it all.
I was reading something, it was really sad. What is a Las Vegas credit room?
A credit room?
Yeah.
I'm assuming you mean the office you go into to get a line of credit?
Yeah, something about the credit rooms, like the people that work there just constantly see people putting their houses on the line.
Oh, yeah.
Like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so there's an office. It's usually in the high limit rooms because they want it super accessible. And that's where you go and you can apply for a line of credit. And there's lots of layers to it. Now, when you get a line of credit, whatever it is, there's also like a secondary secret line of credit built in. It's called TTO. It's supposed to stand for this trip only. The thing is that it works for every trip. And you can change that TTO with a text message. So let's say you have a line of credit for $1 million. They have to approve you, obviously, for the $1 million that you're good for it, right? So you have to jump through some hoops. They give you the $1 million line of credit. You lose that $1 million. You say, I want my TTO. Usually standard is 50% of your original line, which means an extra $500,000, even if you don't have it. They just on the spot will hand you $500K in chips. Sometimes it straight up matches your line of credit, so they'll give you an extra $1 million. If you lose that, you say, I want more. And they will continue to approve you and approve you. It's all situational, knowing that you can only afford the $1 million. But next thing you know, you owe $5 million, but you only have $1 million. And they'll take everything if you don't pay.
That's really sad. Have you seen anyone like throw their house on the line?
100%. All the time. All the time.
What's something like really random you've seen put on the line that you're like, that's kind of sad?
No one ever actually in real life like puts a ring on the table. Like that's not really how it works. It's like, I'll bet you this, and if I lose, like I'll let you hold this as collateral. You know, it's more like that. A funny one that I had that you kind of made me think of was one time me and my two boys when we lived in Vegas, we were doing all these non-money wagers. All three of us were in like super long-term relationships, and we played an 8-game series of air hockey, and the loser had to break up with their girl. And obviously my one homie lost, and he had like bought her an Audi. They lived together, like this whole thing. So I had to go help her. I also had to send the breakup message to make sure like there was no coming back from it, you know? And then, so he packed her up and goes, put it in the Audi I bought you and like go to your new place. She goes to her new place, and then I was the one that had to go to her new place to pick up the Audi and bring it back.
You actually made him follow through with
Yeah,
it.
oh yeah, all of us. A bet's a bet, all of us. If I broke up, my girl lived with me too. We were together for years. And if I lost that game, we're splitting up. Yeah.
That's rough, man.
Yeah.
You've been in some high stakes situations.
Mm-hmm.
How do you deal with stress?
I deal really well with stress.
I've heard you say you think of the casinos like a game, and you think of like the numbers instead of like actual money, right? Like the bits.
They're units.
Yeah, the units. But like in life, how do you deal with stress?
Really good. I know a lot of people fold under pressure, but not me. I'm like when you put coal under pressure, you get a diamond, you know, or whatever it is. You don't get a diamond. What do you get? A pearl?
I think it's a diamond. Yeah.
Is it a diamond? Whatever it is, I do really well under pressure. I think pressure helps me hyper focus on the situation. The more lax I am, the more susceptible I am to like right now, if we're just chilling, mad calm, I'll sit like this, look around, not pay attention, be loose. You can make a lot of mistakes that way. But if there's tons of pressure and stress in this room, and I have one goal, the only way I know I'm going to achieve that goal is if I block it all out. So I'm like an all or nothing guy. I got to like block all of it out and stay focused. So the more pressure, the more hyper focus I get.
You say you're a pretty ADHD person?
No.
No.
I seem that way?
No, not really.
Oh.
Honestly, you seem fairly focused. I was just curious, back in like the drug days, were you more of like an upper or downer kind of person?
Everything.
Everything?
Yeah.
There wasn't one?
I like to experience the maximum feelings and emotions of everything. Pain, pleasure, happy, sad, right, wrong. I'm a maximist.
What's something about your lifestyle that people don't see on social media?
I think I'm really funny, and everybody around me thinks I'm really funny. And I always wished that I was like a stand-up comedian instead of like all this. Yeah.
I see your shirt. What's your shirt say?
My shirt says...
show it to the camera if you can. Just that one, yeah.
This one right here?
Trans rights are human rights.
Yeah. It's a joke. I had... So this girl that was staying...
I haven't asked you the whole time. I was thinking about it. I was like, I wonder if he's like serious with this, but...
Definitely not.
Yeah.
I thought that it would... No. I said it's definitely a joke. So I took this girl one time. She was staying with me, and she was driving me crazy, and she wanted to go shopping. So to prove a point, I took her to Goodwill. And I remember I was wearing the John Mayer. I took a video. I was wearing the John Mayer, taking her shopping at Goodwill. I thought it was hilarious. So while we're in Goodwill, I'd never been in a Goodwill before. Like, I didn't even know. So I'm just like looking kind of, and I saw this shirt. It was in my size. And I'm like, there will come a time that this is going to be the perfect shirt. And then I never wore it, ever. And then today, all of them were in my house, like, yo, you got to go, like, whatever. And I was like, do you guys think that I should dress like mature and like tightened up, you know, or should I be like my fullest self? And I told them, I was like, there's gonna be two extremes. Which one should I pick? And I didn't tell them what either outfit was. And they're like, go fully you today. And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna be funny. So I wore this shirt. It's a mental health awareness shirt.
Tell me more.
You like that one?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's good, right?
Mental health awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw Trump just declared that when he gets into office, he'll make it recognized by the government that there's only male and female, that there are no other genders. What do you think of trans rights?
Trans rights don't exist because they're just human rights, right? There's men and there's women. That's it. Transgenderism is just a form of mental health exhibiting itself that way. And I think it was really, really good for the government to continue to perpetuate this belief that transgenderism is real because they need us sick. They need us distracted. They need us fighting over things that do not matter so they can continue to do their operations in peace and away from us. The more distracted we as civilians are with literal nonsense, the more they can get their things done without our affecting them. I think that every single human being goes through puberty, basically. You know, I guess there's some that don't, whatever. We all go through puberty, right? Yeah. You're a man, I'm assuming?
Yeah, definitely.
Fair assumption. Yeah. When you went through puberty, I bet it was real similar to mine. I bet your body started acting different, it started doing different things you've never encountered, things you were unaware of, things you were unknowledgeable, so you couldn't even understand what was happening. You started to feel different, you started to think different, you're probably confused, and because it was the first experience you ever had in that life, you didn't know how to cope with it. You didn't even know what was happening enough to be able to express to somebody what was happening so you can get a good answer and understanding of what was happening. Basically, puberty is confusion. We all feel uncomfortable when we go through puberty. So imagine when you're at your peak of malleability, which is like your early teenage years, your peak of like absorption of like society and cultural norms, and you're also at your peak of unfamiliarity with your own feelings, your own thoughts, and your own body. And somebody comes and goes, I know exactly why you're feeling that way. It's because you're not a man. you're actually a woman. And if you become a woman, you're going to feel exactly correct. To people who have no concept or mental strength to understand, no, I just got to power through. This is puberty. This is normal. That is the perfect time to enter and alter their entire life forever. And that's why that age is such an impressionable age upon kids. And I think that's what happened. And the government saw this kind of happening and go, this is a great way to brainwash our youth and destroy our civilization more and keep them further distracted from the real stuff that we're doing up here.
Why does the government want people to be weak?
The weaker people are, the easier they are to control. There's so much more of us than there are of them that if we wanted to overthrow the government, we could. But the more weak we are, it's like it would take 10 of us to one of them. They make us weaker, it takes 100 of us to one of them. And eventually they even out the playing field. And they go, eventually enough information about what the government does is going to come out that the masses might not agree with, that we want to stand up and fight. But we're going to be so weak at that point that the government's like, go ahead, bring it on. You know, like.
Growing up on the streets a lot, I'm sure you had, I'm not sure how it was in Jersey or New York, but like Los Angeles at least, there's a lot of trans people on the streets. What do people on the streets think about trans people?
They're just gay dudes that like dudes and they like dressing like girls, which is fine, by the way.
You think it's a fetish?
Yeah, I think it's like a fetish. I think it's like their sexual exploration. And I have no issues with any of that. You're not going to convince me of any of your nonsense that you think you believe, you know? You're gay? Cool. Like my head producer, Matt Batista, he's gay. We love Matt. Like, who cares, bro? Who cares, honestly? You want to wear a dress, bro? Wear a dress. You want to put on lipstick? Wear lipstick. Like, it don't bother me.
So you're fine with it. You're just more of it's denying reality and it's unhealthy at certain points. Yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. If you want to be a gay man and wear makeup, I think you're weird, right? But I get it. I'm a straight man that wanted to wear sweatpants today. Some people would be like, I would never leave the house in sweatpants. I get it. I tattooed my face. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, you're weird. You tattooed your face. I get it. You're gay and you want to wear lipstick. No problem. But you're not going to come into my school system and teach my kids that that's a real option for them, because it's not, you know?
What do you think of abortion?
You know what's so funny? Only one person ever has asked me that question, and their sponsors wouldn't let them put out my answer.
Well, this show is not sponsored, so everyone get ready for the Mikki Mase answer to this question.
I'm pro-abortion. Let me actually, that's not totally true. I'm pro-choice. I'm so pro-choice that I think we should be able to choose when people have abortions. I think that we should not just support abortions. I think we should support late-term abortions. I would go as late as saying 800 months late. For me, I'm completely pro-murder. I have no problem with the concept of killing anybody at any age for any reason or no reason. I support war. I think wars would end so much sooner if they weren't really just a way to generate income for the economy. If they let me run a war, the wars would be ended in one day. The government wouldn't be able to make money off it because it'd end too soon, but I'm 100% pro-violence, pro-gun violence, pro-war, pro-murder, and pro-abortion.
You think wars are elongated to make the government money?
100%. And for further distraction.
What do you think of the war in Israel? This is something I haven't spoke on because it's just the most vast history of something ever. But what do you think of the war in Israel?
What do you think of the war in Israel?
I have no opinions on it.
Yes,
honestly.
you do.
I would agree with you that it's probably something to make money, and I would love to know why we're so involved in it.
So Palestine is not a real area. It's not a real region. It's a region of Israel that back in the day we were fighting over. And this is a very surfacey bubblegum answer.
Yeah, this is a deep history, like the deepest history of anything.
Right.
Yeah.
So a very bubblegum surface answer is everyone was like, hey, we're tired of fighting. We know you guys want the land. And they were like, we know you guys don't want to give it up. So the UN came in and said, let's make a deal. Israel is going to agree to give you this piece over here. Do with it whatever you want. But when they give it to you, stop fighting them. We're over it, right? You guys are a nuisance to the whole world right now. Take this land. Israel agrees, the Arabs agree, and they go, we're going to call it Palestine, and we're going to become Palestinians. But that's not a real territory. It's not a real place. It's not a real type of person. Palestinians are not real people. That's not actually what they are, right? No problem. Egypt closes their border to the Palestinians. I forget who else did. There's a bunch of all the surrounding countries all closed their borders to the Palestinians because so many terrorists come from there, and it's like a problematic region. Everything's fine. Some of the Palestinians go to Israel. Some of Israel go to Palestine. They work there. They're for the day. They come back. Like, everything's fine. And then the Palestinian people, whatever, decide they want to attack Israel, right? So they try to attack Israel again, and Israel's like, you guys should probably simmer down. We'll win like we always do. Calm down. They go, we don't want to calm down. And now Joe Biden releases $6 billion to Iran. Iran is supportive of the Palestinian region. So they start giving the money to the Palestinian region, and they use that money for their resources to attack Israel. So now comes a bigger problem. The bigger problem says, Israel says, yeah, we can level all of Palestine. We can take over that land. Like, we could take that back. That's not an issue. The issue is now we have other allies such as America, and they have allies like Iran. Iran is also allies with Russia and China, right? So now we're talking about the potential of a nuclear war with all the allies. So it becomes a little tricky, like, how far can each side push it before it brings in the allies? My opinion was this from day one. And on October 7th, 2023, when the war hit the news, I tried to go to Israel to fight in the war. I would love if somebody put a gun in my hand and said, you won't get in trouble, kill as many people as you can. And I kept asking, there was reasons that I couldn't go. I can't get an American passport, so it became really challenging. Out of all the people in the world that wanted to go to Israel and fight, they go, we have to take the easy people first, which was like a good problem, you know? So I went to the bottom of the list and just never made it. So my question from day one is, screw everybody. Israel should just come in and just level the whole Palestinian region. Just in one day, this war is going to end. And if Iran wants to step in, that's when our boys step in, you know? And I don't even think it would get there, personally. And also, I welcome it anyway. You know, like, I don't know. If it was up to me, if I was the shot caller on that, I'll just do it and take my chances with Iran. And if China and Russia wanted to get in, like, so be it. They win, they win. They kill us, they kill us. I die, you know? But that, I think, was the proper chain of events. But then with Trump coming in, basically that's what Trump said. Trump is kind of like, I dare you guys to step in on this one. And it's already, since the election, you've seen all of the Palestinian region allies kind of back up from this war. And my dad's there in Israel now watching it firsthand. They immediately start chilling out right away.
I do want to go back a second. You're pro-murder.
Yeah.
Well, I guess maybe more specifically, why are you pro-abortion? Why do you think it's...
I think that...
Do you think it's a net positive to have abortions?
It's a huge net positive. I think there's a huge portion of living adults on our planet today that they themselves shouldn't even be here, let alone bring a child into this world. I think that if we can force abortion on a people, I think this planet would be way better.
What kinds of people?
All types of people. For the abortion thing, yeah. I think there should be a test, and the test should dictate if you can have that child or not. And I would say a lot of people are going to fail that test. If you can't provide if you're not even in the right state of mind as a human being yourself, I don't think you're fit to be a parent, because now you're guiding that kid. You don't even have information on how to be a good adult. And now you want to teach a kid how to be a good adult? It'll never happen. All you're doing is perpetuating negativity and more damages to the world. You're creating a lineage of problematic human beings.
I think some people would say that gets a bit into eugenics, maybe. Like wanting certain people to not be born or certain people to die based on like income and such.
I would say I would not go as deep to say eugenics, my own personal. But I can see why it would sound like that. I'm giving very abrasive answers, and I know that, you know.
Like, what should men's rights be in terms of abortion?
If I agree to have the child, then I have to agree to financially be responsible. If I don't agree to have the child, I shouldn't be financially responsible.
Why do you think men are financially responsible?
I think that it was all some wasteful manipulation for votes and like people just to agree. I think probably the men that created that law really don't care because it doesn't affect them. Right? They're like older men, they're married with kids, their kids are probably too old to even have child support anyway. And they go, we really got to win over the women's votes here. What are we going to do?
Give them money.
Give them money. Yeah, give them money. Yeah. You have a baby, don't worry, sweetie, here's some money. I also think most men that are those kind of decision makers are doing such important tasks that to them, they're like, what is the least point of entry? It
doesn't cost that much for them either.
Yeah, it's like, go ahead. Just, sweetie, you want some money? Take this money. Just leave me alone, you know? as far as the decision makers go. But it does affect a lot of men and women on a true like human being level.
You've been in these like elite circles before.
Mhm.
Do you think any of these secretive societies and groups are real? Like, do you believe in the Illuminati? Pass.
Pass.
Why are you pro-murder?
I think that the law does not accurately depict or dictate my moral compass. And I think that if there were more severe consequences for wrongdoings, a lot of those wrongdoings would stop. I think that every time you met a pedophile, that you had the complete legal right to murder that pedophile, I bet you pedophilia rates would dramatically drop. I bet you that when you make an appointment and somebody shows up late and they know that you might kill them for being late, I bet you that person won't show up late. I bet you when you have an employee and you tell that employee to do a task and they don't, or they lie and they know that a possible consequence of that dishonesty is murder, I bet you that they're either going to be honest or just do the task. I think the productivity of the entire planet would go through the roof. And I think that a lot of the negativity around the world would end because the consequences would be so grave.
Who determines that moral compass?
So it would be everybody on their own. And I think what would happen from there, you know, they say from chaos comes order. I think there'd be groups of people, and I think you would, again, there's no way to know this with complete certainty, but I would imagine what would happen is people would understand where is the mass people that have the same moral compass as yourself, right? And you'd probably move to the region, wherever on the planet that is, that hosts those moral values. And within your own community, it would be a moral compass, which would essentially be your own set of laws, right? But you would have the ability to move to another group or not. You can live on your own if you want, be a nomad, whatever. To whatever moral compass that aligns with you, you can go there and live in that sort of utopian area. I think that's what would really happen. I think like there'd be stronger people than other. There'd be people that have more resources, like if somebody has a lot of guns or a lot of weapons, right? That person would probably stand ground and say, this is my moral compass. This is my new set of rules. If you don't like it, I will kill you. But if you do like it, feel free to ride and support me. And you'd be like, I don't agree with that. I'm out of here. And you go over there, right? Or someone would say, I know how to make weapons. I know how to gain resource. I know how to do these things. The guy who owns Smith & Wesson, right? Probably you'd want to be maybe in his region, depending on the rest of his moral compass, you know? And you could acquire those weapons. I think that's what would happen. I think different regions would create their own set of rules based on their moral compass, and you'd have the freedom to pick or choose or create your own. If you're a strong enough person, create your own. Religions are not anti-murder. They're anti-murder that doesn't support their belief. They are very pro-murder if it's for the benefit of their belief.
Tell me more.
Does it say in the Bible, thou shalt not kill or thou shalt not murder?
Thou shalt not kill.
So if it says thou shalt not kill, it doesn't say murder. How many religious wars have you seen, and how much murder is depicted in the Bible?
Quite a bit.
It's only when it doesn't support their beliefs that's when it's a problem.
This is kind of a right hook.
It's also, by the way, just so you know, it's
yeah.
also the same reason that cops can kill more people than civilians for the same reasons. Cops can get away with murder way more than us. It's because it supports the belief of those that are enforcing it. So before there were government and laws and there was only religion and religious leaders, now there's government and laws. It is the exact same entity, just with a different title. So they go, our officers of the law are carrying out our beliefs, our laws. So if they kill for us, it's acceptable. But if they kill for their own reasons that are against our beliefs, now you have to go to jail for murder.
I'm going to give you some theoreticals here. Okay. So theoretically, Mikki, if you had killed someone, would you say it?
Today, like would I say it under today's laws?
Yeah.
No.
Theoretically, if you knew the Illuminati was real, would you say it?
No.
Theoretically, if you knew who was really in power, would you say it?
No.
Do you think mermaids are real?
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Our friend told me you said mermaids are real. I was like, there's no way. Tell me.
Yeah. Okay, so imagine this. During the Ice Age, we were in the phase of evolution that is cavemen and cavewomen, right? As all the animals on the planet during the Ice Age, they had two options. And we could see it in today's age in their evolution. They could find higher, drier land and evolve to land beings, or they can learn to adapt and evolve to water-bearing beings. So where a lot of animals went one way and the other, and we can compare, right? Like we have the resources today to look and date back and see which genetics went in what direction for evolution. It would make sense to me that we didn't have cell phones back then. We didn't have email. There was no like news on the TV during the Ice Age. So there's no way for all of the cavemen to communicate. So they did whatever they thought was natural. Some of them went to higher, drier, warmer land to try to survive and wait it out. But I don't think all of them did. So if we can evolve on land to be from caveman, what we were at the time, to what we are today looking at each other, it would also make sense to me that some of us that chose water during that time period would evolve at equal succession to be water-bearing humans, which would essentially be mermaids. So then comes the next question, assuming that concept makes sense. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So the next question is, well, why don't we know about mermaids? Why don't we communicate with mermaids? When we swim in the ocean, don't we swim with mermaids? Why don't we?
Yeah.
Why are we under the belief that mermaids aren't real outside of cartoons? Did you know that there are more wormholes you can create a wormhole easier on the surface of water than you can in air? It's like a scientific fact. So there's a fact for you. Wormholes are more easily created on the surface of water than they are in air. That's a fact. You can look that up. Did you know that there are more USO sightings than there are UFO sightings?
USO.
Unidentified submerged object. There are more sightings of UFOs entering water over masses of water than there are just flying in the air. So if we're starting to point everything towards bodies of water, then for me, it makes way more sense that by the way, I'm also fully aware that we are in communication with extraterrestrial intelligence, right? Like that's not like a question to me. Like I know we are, right? I know that
Why do you know?
Well, it makes perfect sense. I mean, we can go on for hours talking about the endless trails of alien interaction and human interaction.
But do you have intel on this?
I don't know if I would have I don't think I can answer that. I can give you some quotes in history. I'll give you some moments in history. Nikola Tesla, when he invented the death ray, which by the way, he didn't invent a death ray. He invented a piece of technology that in theory had the capability of doing damage. But it was such a powerful piece of technology for positivity, which is what he invented it for, that when the government found out, they dubbed it the death ray, they shut him up, and they stole his idea. So the government owns what is known as the death ray, but it actually is for incredible productivity. He's quoted by saying that he was given the idea for the death ray in his dreams from an alien. And time again in history, we have these patterns. And I believe that the standard concept of an alien, which is a gray, like big head, long eyes, like the standard depiction, are actually just humans evolved in the future that have left their indigenous planet to whatever planet they're on now where they're continuing to evolve, that are coming back into our present, which is their past, to make changes here to help affect our future, which is their present. So when they're doing that, it would make sense to me that they said to themselves, based on their own history of hundreds of thousands of years of being humans that have lived and experienced things, we can't just give ourselves to the masses because the masses aren't ready. They will misuse our technology. They'll misunderstand us. They'll miss everything. So they go, we have to contact world leaders. And they already know world leaders because it's their past. They already lived through this generation of existence. So they know how to find the world leaders. They go, hey, here we are. They go, we're going to work together. And I'm going to give you guys technologies, and this is how you're going to use them. I also think this is why there's no more gold left. I'll tell you after, but the history of how money was created. So the aliens go, we have to live somewhere to be involvement. It's easier for us to get into the ocean than it is to even onto your land. Plus, we'll go way less detected entering the ocean than entering land. So I believe they have enormous alien bases under the oceans and the earth. I know that we're told that we haven't been able to explore all the ocean. I'm sure that is completely false. I think that if they were to tell us what is under the ocean, this is what information would come out, is that there's giant alien bases under the ocean. So if an alien landed in downtown LA, I would probably know about it. Personally, I'd probably go over and try to interact, right, given the opportunity. So if an alien landed in the ocean and the water version of me was in that ocean, the water version of me is probably going to also try to interact, right? So the same evolution I am to be a human today with the exact features I have, there's probably a similarly evolved water human, a mermaid in the ocean that sees the aliens. So they go over and they go, hey, you're an alien. And they go, yeah, you're a mermaid. They go, yep. They go, we're going to work together. We're going to figure this all out. So together, the humans that we know of that are world leaders with the mermaids and the aliens all agreed, let's keep the alien technologies a secret from the masses until we on planet Earth have a better understanding how to utilize them. They go, how do we keep it a secret? Well, we also have to keep mermaids a secret, or else mermaids will go back and forth telling land humans what they found from the aliens in the underwater alien bases. So as a whole, I think the community and culture of mermaids is we can't let land humans know we exist, or else one of us might accidentally slip and talk about the aliens. And I think that's why the government makes us believe mermaids aren't real and aliens aren't real. And that's the layer of separation there.
That's really interesting. My preconceived notion was that mermaids came from, it was actually when, this is what they say, but it was when sailors had scurvy and they would see like manatees like on shore, and they would, a manatee has the most anatomically similar vagina to a human. Did you know this?
I believe you. I'm taking from experience.
I know from experience, of course. But it was like Christopher Columbus actually had sex with a manatee, was the story. But that's really interesting.
I don't
so you
think
the grays, you think that's like...
I think those are humans. I think those are humans.
Okay.
I think gray aliens are actually humans that evolved.
Do you think they live interplanetary, or do you think they just live here?
No, interplanetary. I think they come here and visit just to help guide us. So if we are their past, imagine you had a time machine and you can go in your past and tell younger you, hey, don't go do that one thing because it will negatively affect me for the rest of my life. Like, you're going to do it. So I think that's what they're doing without trying to overly affect the line, which is also why I think we see moments of great technological advances and then vast moments of not.
Really?
Yeah.
Give me an example.
So let's say in the last 20 years, we've had more technological advances than we did between 1950 and 1970, right? And I think the reason for that is, mind you, I'm obviously slightly making this up. I wasn't there, right? But between 1950 and 1970, for example, the aliens weren't here. They were like, oh, we're going home. We're going to go chill and see what's good in our own planet. Then they go, okay, there's some issues. They go, what can we do in our present? What do we want? The issues we have in our present, how do we fix it by going in the past? So then they'll come in like the year 2000, let's say. And they come to year 2000, they go, here's some technologies. Here's some things you guys can do that will positively impact your future, which is our present.
Tell me about the gold thing.
Do you know how money was created? Like money, like dollar bills.
Something in Switzerland, yeah? No?
So people would barter items, whether cattle or goods or whatever. So they found that the easiest way, people just naturally evolved to the concept that the easiest thing to barter is pieces of gold. But people didn't want to carry around their life savings of gold everywhere. So they went, we need a place to store all of our gold, our goods, so it's safe and we don't have to carry it. So they decided, let's open this thing called a bank. So they opened banks. Banks were a place where you would bring your gold and they would hand you paper receipts for how much gold you have. And then every time you did a transaction, receipt for gold, it would be a two-way transaction. You'd either give a receipt or get a receipt. Those receipts are what's now known as dollar bills, which is why every dollar is supposed to be backed up by gold at the Federal Reserve. But gold itself doesn't really have value. It doesn't actually do anything. It's really just a rock. I believe the reason why gold is considered as valuable as it actually is because I think extraterrestrial spacecrafts use it as their fuel. And
I thought that was going to be your answer. Okay.
Yeah, and I also think that's why there's no more gold left. I think that the government used our gold to barter with the extraterrestrials for their fuel to get more information and technologies.
How do you think the pyramids were created?
That's actually a good question. I think that aliens came and gave a lot of technologies at the wrong time. And I think that was one of them. And I don't think the pyramids were a bad doing. I think they just saw, at the same time, somewhere else in the world, they saw their present day, which is our future, affected wrongly. And they probably reflected and go, we gave too much to the civilization too fast. Let's pull back now. I think that's one of the possible answers is why in biblical times, first of all, they clearly describe spacecrafts in the Old Testament and all types of things, and the New Testament. But I also think it's one of the possible reasons why people in biblical times lived to be hundreds of years old. I think they had technologies that we don't now. One of many reasons, by the way. That's not like my only answer, but I think to answer your question simply, how were the pyramids created? I think with alien technologies that were since then taken back from human civilization.
So are you religious?
No.
No. But you believe in aliens. Okay. So do you believe in concept of God?
Interesting question. I definitely believe in God. No question. I grew up as hardcore atheist as an individual could be.
Yeah.
I found every way to disprove God and show God couldn't be real and doesn't exist and all this. And I was like a fact guy. Like I had like a folder with papers in it. Like I was like, if you can even muster the courage to ask me if, like, do you think God could be real? I would shove information down your throat on how dumb you are for even considering it.
When did you become an atheist?
Like as soon as I was young, as soon as I was old enough to understand the concept of religion and God. Around the age of 21, I started to recognize things happening in my life that I couldn't explain. I couldn't identify it. I could identify it. I couldn't explain it. I couldn't rationalize it. I couldn't create paperwork for it. I couldn't put it in a box, but there was no pretending things weren't happening. Through a series of events, I just said to myself one time, I said, is it possible I'm wrong about being able to disprove God? And it seemed like a little bit more things I couldn't explain happened in my life that day. And the very next day I said, maybe it's possible that there's a chance that in some realm of reality, I might be slightly wrong. And it was like this really, like the smallest amount of open-mindedness you could ever consider. And God had matched himself in my life that equal amount. And so for every day that I was slightly more willing to believe that God maybe could be real, he showed that he was real until eventually I had a full conscious contact with God. So then I said, okay, there is a power greater than myself and he's active in my life. I don't know what that means. I have to figure this out because I'm not going to believe in no fairy tales. I'm not going to believe that, Moses is up there watching little old me or Jesus Christ is up there like, Mikki, you were bad today. I'm punished. I couldn't believe any of that.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe that what was happening around me wasn't happening. I said, let me look into this. And this took me through a deep path of understanding aliens, right? Because I was under the impression that what people, and it is true, that what people in all biblical texts, when you refer to angels and spirits and all this, they really just didn't have the words to describe what they were seeing, right? And they were aliens, is what they were describing.
So you think demons and angels are aliens?
They're just aliens.
Okay.
And the reason you have angel and demon, good and bad, is because aliens are just human beings evolved, just like there's good and bad people. So if one of us came to like an ancient human civilization and did bad things, you'd be like, you would make a description that correlates to a devil. But then if you came and did good things, they'd put a description that correlates you to an angel. They didn't have the words to describe. They didn't have the understanding to describe, no, these are aliens or these are human beings that are evolved or whatever it may be. So I go, okay, but there's still something here. So I dig deeper and deeper. And that's when so then I decided, okay, so in the Bible, in all biblical texts, they're describing aliens, but what is an alien to an alien? Then I go, okay, so the next level, the more indigenous spatial being is a reptilian. And I'll go, okay, so what a gray is to us, a reptilian is to a gray, but what is that to the reptilian? And inevitably, I found that I couldn't prove God, but I also, for sure, couldn't disprove God.
What are the reptilians?
I think it's the next indigenous species of alien that has any communication. I think the way grays affect our current day, I think reptilians affect their current day.
And you think God affects reptilians?
I think there are some layer of unexplained intelligence happening that I probably will never understand, never see, never witness, never know for sure. But for sure there's God, and for sure God works in my life, and for sure I can't disprove him.
But what about Jesus? Because Jesus is mentioned in pretty much every major religious text. You don't believe in Jesus?
I think Jesus was a real person. I think he was a great person. I think that he was probably communicating with aliens, which is how he did certain things or learned certain things or had certain technologies to do certain things. But again, I think what people understood to be Jesus Christ was exasperated by a lack of ability to describe or understand what they were really witnessing.
Do you think he was an alien?
I don't know if I'm not sure that I think he was an alien. I think maybe just by the way, this is not like a fact, obviously, but I would say more so than him being an alien was him just in communication with aliens or something of that effect. It's
Do you
not
think
impossible.
that's what a prophet is, perhaps? Someone who speaks through the reptilians or the greys, or perhaps God?
Yeah, I think something like that could be real. It would also, technically, if Jesus was a hybrid of an alien, it would also explain the Virgin Mary theory.
Why?
Well, an alien would inseminate Mary. That's why you could have a fatherless birth.
That's interesting. I'm gonna lighten up a bit here, and do a this or that section. So you just say this or that. You don't have to explain why, but you can if you want. So, L.A. or Miami?
L.A. Miami's a really small city. I lived there for 8 years, where I moved from. People think like, oh, I gotta leave L.A. and get to Miami. It's because they've only been to Miami on vacations.
Yeah.
Live in Miami, and you'll see why on the world clocks, L.A. has a time zone and New York does, not Miami. Miami's not considered a top city in the world.
New York or L.A.?
New York.
Bellagio or the Venetian?
All casinos are bad, but I spent more time in the Venetian, if that means anything.
The Venetian or Wynn?
You could win more at Venetian, but you could have more fun at the Wynn.
MGM or Caesars?
MGM. Caesars is trash.
Assuming you're equally advantaged, in-person or online gambling?
Online gambling is a scam unless it's on Kirgo.com. That is the only online casino in the world that is transparent and honest and will open their back end.
Goodfellas or Casino?
Ooh. Casino. There's like a place in my heart for that movie, Casino. I go Casino.
Unlimited money or unlimited women?
Unlimited money. I don't care about these women. Except for you. I love you with all my heart.
Roulette or Baccarat?
Baccarat.
Blackjack or poker?
Blackjack.
Soft 17 or hard 17 hit?
Soft 17.
Single deck or double deck?
Double deck.
Counting cards or reading opponents?
Reading opponents.
Sports betting or table games?
Trick question. Blanket answer. Table games.
Why trick question?
So there is a guaranteed way to win in sports, but it's not marketed online. I do it. I fund all my fans gambling. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know? You knew? Yeah, and we are crushing massive. There is a guaranteed way to win in sports, and it is not by buying picks. If anyone's selling you picks, by the way, they're scamming. If you're buying picks online, you're buying from a scammer. He's scamming you. But there is a guaranteed way to win in sports, but it's very specific, and it's not buying picks. You could win in table games in a lot of legitimate ways. There's only one way to win in sports legitimately, and it's never everyone who markets sports stuff online is a scammer.
Is it data driven?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It's all math. It's like real time. It's math. It's bots.
Do you have your own algorithms? Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't say they're like mine. Like I didn't create it. I didn't invent it. I don't like own it. But yeah, absolutely.
Parlay or straight up?
Straight up.
Martingale system or Paroli system?
What's Paroli?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to go Paroli. I don't know what it is.
But you think the Martingale system?
I know what Martingale is, and I know it doesn't work.
Do you know flat betting strategy?
Yeah, I flat bet, yeah.
That's better than Martingale as well?
For the way I gamble, yeah.
And then I've asked you this, but play the cards or play the player?
Play the player.
We've asked our question for Vitaly. What's your favorite question to ask people?
For me to ask people? Recently I've been asking everyone around me, are you having fun? Because if you're not having fun, then why are we doing this?
Are you having fun?
I'm having fun.
So you're doing a movie with Will Smith.
2 movies.
2 movies.
Yeah. One's called Sugar and the other's called Luckbox. Yeah.
How'd you get involved with that project?
Almost the same way I get involved in all the projects. The producer saw me online, and this particular producer likes to play cards. So his feed is filled of like gambling related stuff. And he saw me and he really liked the character I played. And originally contacted me asking me to be a consultant. So that way all the gambling would be completely accurate to real life gambling. So we start going over the script for Luckbox because the movie's based about gambling. And I started going over the script with him and the treatments and whatever. And I said, just like made a light comment. I go, did you make this like based on one of my interviews? Because this is like identical to my life. And he asked me more about it. We started digging in more. And he goes, honestly, bro, this was like written by accident perfectly for your character. Do you want to be a character in it? I said, yeah, of course. But like, I don't know how to act. I'm not an actor. You know, I never took an acting class. I never even took a headshot, you know? And he goes, I think the way you are naturally is going to be perfect, but I'm going to put you in another one of my movies, a very small role, just to see how you translate on camera. Are you down? And I'm like, oh, I get 2 movies, like a 2-movie deal for, you know what I'm saying? It's like 2 for the price of 1 kind of deal. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And that's how I got both movies for that one.
What movie are you most excited about filming, like of all your projects right now?
Before you air this, I got to double check I'm allowed to say it, but I play a pretty major role in a movie called Satoshi, and I believe it's with Leonardo DiCaprio and Christian Bale, and it is funded by Satoshi himself, and it is his coming out.
Satoshi Nakamoto?
Yeah.
It's the guy's coming out.
Yeah.
So you know who Satoshi Nakamoto is?
Yeah.
Is he a Russian?
No.
Damn, really?
Yeah.
My last guess swore. You ever talk to Dan Pena?
Mm-mm.
No, he's like the $1 trillion man. Made a lot of money in oil back in the day, but he claims that the Russians invented Bitcoin. But
I heard that theory a lot,
yeah.
and it's like a pretty sound theory, but I know the guy.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah, his coming out is this movie, and it's called Satoshi. It's me, Christian Bale, and Leonardo DiCaprio. So I landed that deal at a dinner. That same dinner, I also landed a lead role in a movie called Dead Friends, which will be directed by King Botch. I'm pretty excited for that one because I think it'll be really fun. It's gonna be like, I think it's gonna be like a pretty easy to film movie. Like I think Satoshi's gonna have a lot of pressure filming that movie. It's gonna be like I'm dealing with like the biggest actor, the greatest actor, so talented, and then me, you know. But I think Good Friends, although they're also great actors, I think the type of movie it is and the type of process of production it's called Dead Friends. That movie I think is gonna be filmed in an easier setting for me, being inexperienced in acting.
I might just ask you this one. What's the wildest party you've been to?
Probably my own.
Really?
Yeah, probably my own. My Halloween festival was pretty crazy. Made the news again. I haven't made the news for one of my parties in like 3 years.
What'd you guys do at your party?
Oh, everything, bro. It was sick. So it was a festival. There was, I think, 3,500 people. We had an X Games show. We had a freak show. This one girl, I feel a little bit bad. She had sliced her whole body up. So there was like the freak show was like really freakish, sexual type of stuff. So she did like the bed of nails and walking on broken glass and breaking glass over her body and cutting herself and like bleeding everywhere. And then there was like a 15-person orgy on the stage after. They lit some of the girls on fire. It was like part of the whole deal. I didn't even realize.
This is your party?
Yeah.
Did you come up with the idea for it?
Yeah. It's like 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
Tell me more. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the girls they lit on fire, she was hanging out afterwards, and I realized the girl I used to see, like lightly, you know. I didn't recognize her when she was on stage. She was like in the whole gimmick, you know. It's cool. There's a lot of photos of me standing on the stage while all this is happening. It was cool. It was fun.
Why do gambling addicts love to lose?
Gambling addicts love to lose because there's a chemical in their brain that gets released only while they're losing. So they don't realize this, but their brain is getting addicted to the chemical release in their brain. The chemicals only release when they lose. Gambling addicts are not inherently bad gamblers. They're not unadvantaged players. They're not dumb players necessarily. People have a lot of trouble walking away when they're winning. Even non-gambling addicts, recreational gamblers. They are sold a fake belief that they can keep winning and that they win more, and they don't feel the feeling that they're addicted to until they start losing, which is why so many people go in and leave broke and have the same story. Why didn't I leave when I was up?
Do you have that at all?
I don't.
I think I have that a bit. I really like the feeling of losing, so I try to stay away from the gambling stuff.
A lot of people, like my best friend, like he's an excellent gambler,
Yeah.
but he hates himself. He has really low self-esteem. He has low self-worth, low self-value. So he wants his outsides to always match his inside. So he can have everything in the world at his fingertips. He can have a lot of money in the bank, have a brand new car, have a brand new house, have all these things, but he still hates himself so much inside that he will do anything he can to self-sabotage subconsciously so his outsides match his insides. Then he could justify the way he's feeling.
You have a 2-part plan to destroy every casino.
Mm-hmm.
Part 1 is currently in effect, I believe. But Part two, you said on a podcast that it was launching in a certain number of days if you decided to go through with it. Have you decided to go through with part two?
Yes. Yes.
That's all you could say about it?
Yeah.
That was on Vlad
It'll
TV.
be in the news
It'll be in the news?
for sure.
And it's like physical location casinos, or is it online casinos?
It'll be the physical brick and mortar casinos.
Is it something you realized they were doing?
It'll be in the news.
Yeah. Okay. When should we expect that?
Anywhere from 1 to 2 years.
1 to 2 years? Cool.
That's my guess, yeah.
Who's the most impressive person you've ever met?
Probably my grandfather. I got to see every aspect of who he was as a person and how he dealt with people and the way he was able to like get through life being who he was. Like we all come in as like a human being, and the way he just, I don't know, the way he just thought and the way he understood things was really unique and just made so much sense to me. And it's super rare that I find someone else that can go through life the way he did. I don't know.
Was he a gambler?
He was.
Was he successful?
I think
Has there been anyone in your family that was successful?
at gambling, probably not. My whole family's super high stakes gamblers, but I'd say lifetime losers more than winners. I would say, respectfully, of course, to my family. I love them and all, but I'd say the math speaks for itself. And no, the answer is no.
Last question here. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
The best piece of advice I ever received was that any idiot can make money. The hard part's keeping it.
Tell me more.
Anybody can make money. You go to McDonald's and you get a job, you're going to get a paycheck. You're going to get money at the end of the week. But the week after that, how much of that first check do you have left?
How do you make sure you keep it?
I got a little bit fortunate in that situation. So when I had my peak of cash, I knew that I was susceptible to flipping a coin for all that money if somebody matched me. So I needed to save myself from myself. I need to protect me from myself. So I created an investment fund with some very, very strong people I trust, and we all put in the money, and I pay a small fee for management to just keep that money away from me and let it grow in the best way that it should without me having any impact on it.
Anything else you want to add?
Nah, I don't know. I had a good time. It was cool being here.
Yeah.
I am funding all my fans gambling, and that's been going great.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's been going great. And if anyone's interested in me funding 100% of your gambling, no risk to you, zero, follow me on Instagram, and I post a link for the sign up every few months. There's a vetting process, and if whoever gets approved, like, gets the funding, basically.
What's your Instagram right now? I saw one is banned.
Yeah, so my main page is at Dirty Goth Boy, and boy is BOI. At Dirty Goth Boy on all platforms. I also have at not Mikki Mase on all platforms.
Is Dirty Goth Boy back now? Or
It'll be back probably next week.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So by the time this goes out, at Dirty Goth Boy. Well, everyone, this has been your guest, Mikki Mase. This is the Jack Neel Podcast. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.